Welcome to Lotus Whisper. Tonight, we embark on a profound journey into the heart of Buddhist wisdom, exploring the transformative power of forgiveness. This ancient path, illuminated by the Buddha's teachings, offers a way to release the heavy burdens of resentment and anger, guiding us toward inner peace and liberation. It is a gentle invitation to understand, to let go, and to find serenity within ourselves. As we settle into this quiet space, allow the gentle current of these words to carry you towards a deeper calm, preparing your mind and heart for a peaceful rest. Please subscribe to the channel to hear more stories like this. Part 1. Understanding the nature of suffering. Tonight, as the world outside begins to quiet its ceaseless hum, we turn our gaze inward to a profound truth illuminated by the Buddha: the nature of suffering. It is a truth not meant to alarm, but to awaken, to gently guide us towards a deeper understanding of our own hearts and minds. Often, we carry burdens we do not need to bear, invisible weights that press down upon our spirit, stealing our peace and clouding our vision. These burdens are the lingering echoes of anger, the persistent whispers of resentment, and the sharp edges of past hurts that we cling to, sometimes unknowingly, sometimes with a fierce, misguided loyalty. Imagine for a moment holding a burning ember in your hand. You grasp it tightly, convinced that by holding it, you are somehow punishing the one who ignited its flame, or perhaps the circumstances that brought it into your grasp. But as the heat intensifies, as the pain sears your skin, you realize that the suffering is entirely your own. The ember burns you, and you alone. This ancient image, simple yet profound, speaks directly to the heart of what it means to hold on to anger and resentment. The pain we inflict upon ourselves by refusing to forgive is often far greater and far more enduring than any initial hurt we may have experienced. The Buddha, observing the human condition with boundless clarity, taught that suffering, or dukkha, arises from attachment. We often think of attachment in terms of material possessions or relationships, but it extends far deeper, encompassing our attachment to ideas, to expectations, to our very sense of self, and crucially, to our grievances. When we refuse to let go of a past wrong, we become attached to the story of that wrong, to the pain it caused, and to the anger that feels, for a time, like a protective shield. But this shield, rather than protecting us, becomes a cage, trapping us within the very suffering we wish to escape. Consider the mind as a vast, open sky. When anger or resentment arises, it is like a dark, turbulent storm cloud. If we cling to this cloud, if we feed it with our thoughts and memories, it grows larger, darker, obscuring the natural radiance of the sky. It blocks the sunlight of joy, the clear air of peace, and the gentle breeze of contentment. We become so engrossed in the storm that we forget the boundless, clear sky that lies beyond and beneath it. This clinging is not an act of strength, but a subtle form of self-imprisonment. The profound wisdom of the Buddha teaches us that forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of another. It is not about saying that what happened was acceptable or that the pain was deserved. Far from it. Forgiveness is a radical act of self-compassion, a deliberate choice to liberate oneself from the emotional chains that bind. It is the wisdom to recognize that the refusal to forgive inflicts pain primarily upon the forgiver. It is the realization that the burden of anger is heavier for the one who carries it than for the one who may have caused it. In the quiet monasteries, where the rhythm of life is slow and deliberate, monks spend years cultivating this understanding. They observe the mind, watching thoughts and emotions arise and pass, like leaves floating down a stream. They learn not to grasp, not to cling. They understand that anger, like all phenomena, is impermanent. It arises, it dwells, and it passes away. But if we feed it, if we hold on to it, we prolong its stay, making a temporary visitor into a permanent resident in the sanctuary of our hearts. Think of a time when you felt deeply wronged. Perhaps the memory still stirs a knot of tension in your stomach, a tightening in your chest, or a surge of heat in your face. These are not merely emotional responses. They are physiological manifestations of the suffering you are holding on to. The body remembers, and it reacts. Chronic anger and resentment can manifest as stress, anxiety, sleep disturbances, and even physical ailments. The Buddha's teachings, though ancient, resonate deeply with modern understandings of the mind-body connection. When we carry the weight of unforgiveness, we are not only spiritually burdened, but physically and mentally exhausted. The path to liberation begins with this clear-eyed recognition. I am suffering because I am holding on to this anger, this resentment, this hurt. It is a moment of profound honesty, a turning point where we shift our focus from what was done to us to what we are doing to ourselves. This shift is not about denying the reality of past pain, but about refusing to allow that pain to define our present moment and dictate our future. Consider the story of a man who was deeply wronged by a fellow villager. For years, he carried the bitterness like a heavy sack on his back. Every morning, he would awaken with the weight of it. Every evening, he would lie down with its oppressive presence. His face grew hard, his eyes lost their sparkle, and his heart became a fortress, impenetrable to joy or peace. One day, a wise monk observed his suffering. "My friend," the monk said gently, "you carry a burden that is not yours to keep. The one who wronged you has perhaps forgotten their deed or carries their own suffering. But you are choosing to relive it every moment, to allow it to steal your precious present." The man protested, "But how can I forget? How can I let go of such injustice?" The monk smiled softly. "You do not forget. You simply choose not to carry the sack anymore. You recognize that the act of carrying it harms only you. You lay it down, not for the other, but for the freedom of your own spirit." This simple tale encapsulates the essence of this first teaching. Forgiveness is not a weakness, it is a profound strength. It is the strength to choose freedom over bondage, peace over turmoil, and healing over perpetual wounding. It is the courage to acknowledge our own suffering and to take active steps to alleviate it. The Buddha often spoke of the mind as a field. Whatever we plant in this field, whether seeds of anger or seeds of compassion, will grow. If we continually water the seeds of resentment with our thoughts, with our rumination on past injustices, then a thorny bush of bitterness will surely flourish, choking out any possibility of joy or peace. But if we choose to plant seeds of understanding, of release, of forgiveness, even if they feel small and fragile at first, they will gradually grow into a garden of serenity and inner calm. This process of letting go is not always easy. It requires patience, self-awareness, and a gentle persistence. There may be moments when the old anger resurfaces, when the memory of the hurt feels fresh and raw. This is natural. The mind, accustomed to old patterns, will try to revert. But with each gentle redirection, with each conscious choice to release the ember, to lay down the sack, we strengthen our capacity for liberation. We train our minds to choose peace. The stillness we seek, the relaxation that leads to peaceful sleep, begins with this fundamental understanding that the suffering caused by unforgiveness is a self-imposed prison. The key to that prison is not held by the one who wronged us, but by ourselves. We hold the power to unlock the door, to step out into the vast, open sky of our own consciousness, unburdened and free. As you listen, allow these words to wash over you, not as demands, but as gentle invitations. Invite the possibility that you can release what no longer serves you. Invite the understanding that your peace is paramount. Invite the courage to step away from the burning ember, to drop the heavy sack, and to allow your heart to begin its journey towards healing. This is the first step on the path of unburdening, a path that leads not to forgetting, but to profound freedom. It is the recognition that the greatest act of compassion we can offer ourselves is the gift of forgiveness. It is the understanding that our refusal to forgive is a refusal to be truly free, truly at peace, truly ourselves. And as we begin to grasp this truth, a quiet space opens within, a space where true relaxation can finally take root, preparing the way for a night of deep and restorative sleep. The path of unburdening, as the Buddha taught, is not a sudden leap, but a gentle, persistent turning away from what harms us. It is a slow, deliberate untangling of the threads of attachment that bind us to our pain. We often believe that by holding on to resentment, we are somehow upholding justice, or preserving our dignity, or ensuring that the wrongdoer suffers the consequences of their actions. Yet, the profound truth is that the only one truly suffering in this scenario is ourselves. The anger we harbor, the bitterness we cultivate, acts like a poison, slowly seeping into every corner of our being, dulling our senses, clouding our judgment, and stealing the very vitality that is our birthright. Let us return to the image of the burning ember. When we first grasp it, the pain is sharp and immediate. But if we continue to hold it, the pain transforms. It becomes a dull ache, a constant throb, a part of our very hand. We might even grow accustomed to it, mistakenly believing that this pain is simply how life is, how our hand must feel. We might forget what it feels like to have a hand free from scorching heat, a heart free from the constant pressure of a grievance. This is the insidious nature of long-held anger and unforgiveness. It becomes so deeply ingrained that we mistake its presence for a part of ourselves, rather than an external burden we have chosen to carry. This internal burden manifests in countless ways. It colors our perceptions, making us see the world through a filter of suspicion and negativity. A kind word might be misinterpreted, a neutral gesture might be seen as an affront. The joy of others might feel like a personal insult, and moments of peace might be fleeting, quickly overshadowed by the re-emergence of old wounds. The mind, constantly replaying the narrative of the past hurt, becomes a restless, agitated space, incapable of settling into the quietude necessary for true rest and rejuvenation. The Buddha's teaching on suffering, dukkha, is not a pessimistic view of life, but a realistic one. It acknowledges that pain is an inherent part of existence, but it also offers a way to transcend the suffering that arises from our reaction to pain. The initial hurt, the act of being wronged, is the pain. Our clinging to that pain, our refusal to let it go, our constant re-engagement with it in our minds, that is the suffering. Forgiveness, then, is not about erasing the pain of the past, but about releasing our attachment to it, thereby ending the suffering it causes in the present. Think of the mind as a clear pool of water. When anger and resentment are stirred, the water becomes muddy and turbulent. We cannot see the bottom, we cannot see our own reflection clearly, and the light cannot penetrate its depths. This turbulent state prevents us from seeing things as they truly are, distorting our understanding of ourselves, of others, and of the situation at hand. It creates a fog that obscures wisdom, compassion. The act of forgiveness is like allowing the mud to settle, allowing the waters to become still and clear once more. Only then can we see with clarity, only then can the light of understanding penetrate, and only then can we find true peace. This process of letting go is a practice, not a single event. It is a continuous, gentle effort to redirect our attention away from the narrative of grievance and towards the possibility of peace. When the old thoughts arise, as they inevitably will, we acknowledge them without judgment, and then gently, patiently release them. We do not engage with them, do not feed them, do not allow them to take root once more. It is like watching clouds drift across the sky. We observe them, but we do not try to grasp them or hold them in place. We simply let them pass. Sometimes we hold on to anger because we fear that letting go means we are weak, or that we are allowing the other person to get away with it. This is an illusion. True strength lies not in clinging to pain, but in the courage to release it. The Buddha taught that our inner peace is our most precious possession, and no external event or person should have the power to steal it from us indefinitely. By choosing forgiveness, we reclaim our power. We declare that our inner state of being is more important than the satisfaction of holding on to a grudge. We assert our right to be free from the torment of resentment. Consider the profound impact this has on our ability to truly live in the present moment. When we are consumed by past hurts, our minds are constantly pulled backward, replaying scenarios, rehearsing arguments, reliving emotions. We are not truly here, now. The beauty of a sunset, the warmth of a gentle breeze, the simple joy of a shared meal. These moments pass us by, unnoticed or unappreciated, because our attention is trapped in the prison of the past. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks this prison, allowing us to step fully into the richness and potential of the present moment. It allows us to breathe deeply, to see clearly, to feel fully, without the heavy veil of old pain obscuring our experience. The act of forgiving oneself or others is an act of radical self-compassion. It is a recognition that you, the forgiver, deserve peace. You deserve to be free from the corrosive effects of anger and bitterness. You deserve to experience the lightness of being that comes with release. This is not selfishness, it is wisdom. It is understanding that your inner well-being is the foundation upon which all other positive experiences are built. Without this foundation, even moments of joy can feel fragile, easily shattered by the lingering shadows of the past. The Buddha's teachings are not about denying the reality of suffering, but about transforming our relationship to it. When we understand that holding on to anger creates our own suffering, a profound shift occurs. The motivation for forgiveness changes from a moral obligation to a deeply personal necessity. We forgive not because the other person deserves it, but because we deserve peace. We release the burden, not for their sake, but for the liberation of our own heart and mind. As you prepare for sleep, allow this understanding to settle deep within you. Feel the gentle invitation to release any burdens you might be unknowingly carrying. Imagine, with each slow, deep breath, that you are exhaling the tension, the anger, the resentment that has accumulated. With each inhale, draw in a sense of calm, of spaciousness, of quiet strength. This is the beginning of true relaxation, a relaxation that comes not from external circumstances, but from an internal shift in perspective. The path of forgiveness is the path to unburdening. It is the wisdom to see that the burning ember harms only the hand that holds it. It is the courage to lay down the heavy sack, not to forget the journey, but to walk forward with lightness and ease. As the mind begins to release its grip on past hurts, the body naturally follows, softening, relaxing, and preparing for the profound peace of restorative sleep. Let the quiet understanding that you are choosing freedom for yourself be the gentle lullaby that guides you into a night of deep and tranquil rest. Part 2. The illusion of separation. As the gentle currents of night deepen around us, we turn our attention to another profound teaching of the Buddha, one that offers a balm for the restless heart and a clear lens for the troubled mind. This teaching speaks of the illusion of separation, a veil that often obscures our understanding and fuels the very conflicts we seek to escape. In our daily lives, we often perceive ourselves as distinct, isolated islands, surrounded by others who are separate and different. This sense of self versus other can be a source of much anxiety, a fertile ground for judgment, fear, and, ultimately, resentment. Imagine, for a moment, a single drop of water. It seems entirely separate, distinct in its form, distinct in its movement. Yet, if you place that drop into a vast ocean, it immediately merges, becoming indistinguishable from the boundless whole. Its individuality dissolves, not into nothingness, but into an expansive, interconnected reality. The drop was never truly separate. It was always, in its essence, water, part of the greater ocean. This simple image mirrors the profound Buddhist insight into interconnectedness, often called interbeing in Zen traditions. It reveals that all beings, all phenomena, are inextricably linked, woven into an intricate tapestry of existence. The Buddha taught that this illusion of separation is a fundamental misunderstanding, a misperception arising from our limited, egocentric view of the world. We build walls around ourselves, not only physically but emotionally and mentally, convinced that these boundaries protect us. Yet these very walls often become prisons, trapping us in a cycle of isolation and misunderstanding. When we see ourselves as entirely separate, it becomes easier to judge, to resent, and even to harm others, believing that their suffering has no bearing on our own. But the wisdom of interconnectedness reveals a different truth. It shows us that harming another is, in a very real sense, harming a part of ourselves. Just as a wound on one part of the body affects the entire organism, so too does harm inflicted upon another ripple through the vast web of existence, eventually touching the one who initiated the action. This is not merely a moralistic teaching, but a profound observation of the way reality functions. When we act with anger, with malice, with a desire to cause pain, we are not only sending negative energy outwards, but we are also cultivating those very same destructive seeds within our own mind stream. We are poisoning our own inner garden. Consider the intricate dance of nature. The tree breathes out oxygen that we breathe in. We breathe out carbon dioxide that the tree absorbs. The rain falls from the sky, nourishes the earth, which in turn feeds the plants and animals, including ourselves. The sun gives light and warmth, essential for all life. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is dependent on everything else. Our very existence is a testament to this profound interdependency. We are born from others, sustained by others, and our actions, whether kind or cruel, inevitably affect the vast network of life around us. When we hold on to resentment, when we refuse to forgive, we are reinforcing this illusion of separation. We are drawing a sharp line between ourselves and the one who caused us pain, declaring them other, distinct, and deserving of our anger. This act of drawing boundaries, however, keeps us locked in a state of conflict, not only with the perceived other, but with the very flow of life itself. It prevents us from seeing the shared humanity, the shared vulnerability, and often the shared suffering that lies beneath the surface of every interaction. The act of forgiveness, then, becomes a profound acknowledgement of this fundamental unity. It is a conscious choice to dissolve the illusion of separation that fuels conflict and resentment. It is not about condoning the harmful action, nor about forgetting the pain. Rather, it is about recognizing that the other person, like ourselves, is also part of the vast, interconnected web of life. They, too, are subject to suffering, to ignorance, to the conditions that shaped their actions. When we forgive, we are not absolving them of responsibility, but we are liberating ourselves from the burden of carrying their actions within our own heart. We are choosing to see beyond the surface, to connect with the deeper truth of our shared existence. Imagine a vast, still lake. When a stone is thrown into it, ripples spread outwards. affecting every part of the lake, even the distant shore. Similarly, action, every thought, every word sends ripples through the interconnected fabric of existence. When we harbor anger, those ripples are turbulent and disruptive. When we choose forgiveness, the ripples become calm, soothing, and expansive, bringing peace not only to our own inner landscape, but subtly influencing the world around us. The Buddha, in his boundless compassion, understood that suffering arises from clinging to the idea of a separate, enduring self. This self feels vulnerable, easily offended, and fiercely protective of its boundaries. But when we begin to see through this illusion, when we recognize that our self is not a fixed, isolated entity, but a dynamic, ever-changing process intimately connected to everything else, our capacity for empathy and forgiveness naturally expands. We begin to understand that the person who caused us harm is not fundamentally different from us. They are a human being, susceptible to the same fears, the same confusions, the same desires for happiness and freedom from suffering. Perhaps their actions stemmed from their own pain, their own ignorance, their own inability to see the interconnectedness of all things. This understanding does not excuse their actions, but it allows us to approach the situation with a different quality of mind. A mind less clouded by personal offense and more open to compassion. It allows us to see the bigger picture, to recognize that the cycle of harm and retaliation only perpetuates suffering for all involved. By choosing forgiveness, we consciously step out of that cycle. We refuse to add another ripple of anger to the lake. We choose to introduce a ripple of peace instead. In the quiet practice of meditation, we often cultivate a sense of boundless awareness, extending our consciousness beyond the confines of our physical body. We sit, feeling our breath, feeling the sensations in our body, and then gradually expanding our awareness to include the room, the building, the town, the world, and beyond. This practice subtly reinforces the truth of interconnectedness, dissolving the rigid boundaries of the ego and fostering a sense of profound unity. It is in this expanded awareness that the seeds of forgiveness find fertile ground. When we truly grasp the illusion of separation, the concept of us and them begins to soften. The enemy becomes another human being, perhaps lost, perhaps suffering, perhaps simply acting out of their own limited understanding. This does not mean we tolerate injustice or allow harm to continue. It means we respond from a place of wisdom and compassion, rather than from a place of reactive anger and hatred. It means we seek solutions that benefit the whole, rather than simply seeking retribution. This profound understanding of interconnectedness is not merely an intellectual concept. It is a lived experience that can transform our hearts. When we truly feel our connection to all beings, resentment becomes a burden too heavy to bear. It feels unnatural, a constriction against the natural flow of compassion that arises from recognizing our shared existence. Forgiveness, in this light, is not a sacrifice, but a release. It is the natural consequence of seeing clearly, of understanding the fundamental truth that we are all part of one vast, magnificent, and interdependent web of life. As you settle deeper into this moment, allow your awareness to expand. Feel the connection between your breath and the air around you. Feel the subtle energy that flows between all living things. Let go of the rigid boundaries you may have built around yourself. Imagine those walls gently dissolving, like mist in the morning sun. Recognize that the person who caused you pain is also a part of this vast web, perhaps struggling in their own way, perhaps caught in their own illusions. This recognition is not about excusing, but about understanding. It is about choosing to see the bigger picture, to step back from the narrow confines of personal grievance and embrace the expansive truth of our shared humanity. When we do this, the heavy weight of resentment begins to lift. The tension in our body softens, Our mind, no longer consumed by the illusion of separation, finds a quiet spaciousness, a profound sense of peace. This peace is not a fleeting emotion. It is a deep, abiding calm that arises from aligning ourselves with the fundamental truth of existence. It is the peace that comes from knowing that we are not isolated, but intimately connected to all things. And in this connection, in this unity, we find the capacity for boundless compassion, for profound forgiveness, and for a relaxation that permeates every cell of our being, guiding us gently towards a night of truly restorative and peaceful sleep. Let the illusion of separation dissolve and allow the truth of interconnectedness to cradle you in its gentle embrace. As we allow the profound truth of interconnectedness to settle within our hearts, the rigid boundaries we once perceived between ourselves and others begin to soften, like ice melting into water. This softening is not a sign of weakness, but a gateway to a deeper, more expansive understanding of reality. The illusion of separation, a deeply ingrained habit of mind, often leads us to believe that our happiness is independent of others' well-being, or that their suffering has no bearing on our own. Yet, the wisdom of the Buddha reveals that this is a fundamental misconception, a root cause of much anxiety and disquiet. Consider the human body itself, a marvel of interconnectedness. Each organ, each cell, performs its function, seemingly distinct, yet utterly dependent on the health and vitality of the whole. A pain in the foot affects the entire body's movement and comfort. A problem with the heart impacts every other system. There is no part that can truly say, "I am separate, your suffering is not my concern." Similarly, in the vast body of existence, we are all interconnected, organs, cells, and systems. When one part suffers, the whole feels the tremor. When one part heals, the benefit ripples outwards. This understanding profoundly shifts our perspective on forgiveness. If we truly grasp that harming another is, in essence, harming ourselves, then holding on to anger and resentment becomes an act of self-inflicted pain. It is akin to deliberately poisoning one's own bloodstream, expecting the poison to only affect a distant limb. The venom of unforgiveness circulates within our own system, corroding our peace, disturbing our sleep, and dimming the natural light of our spirit. It keeps us in a state of agitation, a constant internal struggle that prevents the mind from finding stillness. The Buddha's teachings encourage us to look beyond the surface of actions to the underlying conditions that give rise to them. Often, when another person causes harm, their actions stem from their own suffering, their own ignorance, their own inability to see the interconnectedness of life. They are, in a sense, caught in the very illusion of separation that we are now seeking to transcend. They may be acting from a place of fear, confusion, or deep-seated pain, much like a confused child lashing out because they do not know how else to express their distress. This perspective does not excuse their behavior, but it allows us to view it with a broader lens of compassion rather than immediate, reactive anger. When we choose to forgive, we are not absolving the other person of their actions, nor are we forgetting the pain they caused. Instead, we are choosing to sever the emotional cord that binds us to their suffering and, by extension, to our own. We are recognizing that their actions, however misguided, are part of the vast, intricate dance of cause and effect, and that our continued entanglement in the cycle of resentment only perpetuates that dance of suffering. By letting go, we are not saying, "What you did was okay." We are saying, "I choose to liberate myself from the suffering your actions have caused me to carry." This act of liberation is deeply personal and profoundly transformative. It is a recognition that our peace of mind is too precious to be held hostage by the past actions of another. It is a conscious decision to reclaim our inner freedom, to step out of the shadow of grievance and into the light of the present moment. When we release the burden of unforgiveness, we are not only healing ourselves, but also sending a ripple of healing energy into the interconnected web of existence. We are choosing to contribute to the collective well-being rather than perpetuating the cycle of discord. Imagine a vast forest where countless trees stand tall, their roots intertwined beneath the earth. Though each tree appears distinct, drawing nourishment from its own patch of soil, their roots communicate, sharing resources, supporting one another. If one tree is diseased, its illness can subtly weaken the entire grove. But if one tree flourishes, its vitality contributes to the health of the whole forest. Our lives are much like this forest. We are not isolated entities. Our roots run deep, connecting us to all beings. When we cultivate forgiveness, when we choose compassion, we are nourishing not only our own tree, but the entire forest of humanity. This deep understanding of interconnectedness is a powerful antidote to the anxiety and restlessness that often plague our minds. When we feel separate, we feel vulnerable, constantly on guard, constantly protecting our perceived boundaries. This creates a state of chronic tension, a subtle but persistent unease that makes true relaxation elusive. But when we recognize our profound connection to all life, a sense of belonging emerges. We are not alone, we are part of something vast and beautiful. This realization brings with it a deep sense of security, a quiet confidence that allows the mind to relax, to let go of its need to constantly defend and protect. The practice of cultivating this awareness can be woven into our daily lives, like a thread of gold in a tapestry. As you walk, feel your connection to the earth beneath your feet. As you breathe, feel your connection to the air that sustains all life. As you interact with others, even those who may challenge you, try to glimpse the shared humanity, the shared vulnerability that lies beneath their surface. This is not always easy, but with gentle persistence, the illusion of separation begins to thin, and the truth of interbeing shines through. In the quiet hours before sleep, this understanding becomes a profound comfort. It allows us to release the day's grievances, the small irritations, the larger hurts, with a deeper sense of perspective. We recognize that holding on to them only reinforces the illusion of separation, keeping us agitated and restless. Instead, we can choose to dissolve those boundaries, to see ourselves as part of the vast, flowing river of life, where all things are connected, all things are in motion, and all things eventually pass. Let the image of the boundless ocean, the intricate forest, or the unified body guide your mind towards a sense of profound interconnectedness. Feel the tension in your shoulders soften, the tightness in your jaw release. Allow your breath to deepen, flowing gently, effortlessly. Recognize that you are not separate, but an integral, cherished part of this vast, living universe. In this recognition lies a deep and abiding peace, a sense of belonging that soothes the anxious mind and prepares the heart for the quiet embrace of truly restorative sleep. Let the illusion of separation gently fade, and allow the truth of your boundless connection to cradle you in serenity. Part 3. Cultivating Metta. As the night deepens and the world outside softens its edges, we turn now to an active practice, a gentle cultivation that directly addresses the anxieties and tensions that cling to our hearts. This practice is known as metta, or loving kindness. It is a profound teaching from the Buddha, a systematic way to open the heart, to dissolve the barriers we build, and to cultivate an unconditional goodwill that extends first to ourselves and then outwards to all beings. Metta is not a fleeting emotion, nor is it conditional love. It is a spacious, open quality of mind, a boundless friendliness that wishes well for all without expectation or attachment. It is the sincere aspiration for the happiness, peace, and freedom from suffering of every living being. In the quiet monasteries, monks and nuns dedicate hours to this practice, understanding its transformative power to soften the heart, to quiet the restless mind, and to lay the groundwork for true forgiveness. The journey of metta begins perhaps surprisingly for some, with ourselves. It is a crucial first step, often overlooked in our eagerness to extend kindness to others. Yet, how can we genuinely offer compassion to another if our own inner landscape is riddled with self-criticism, self-blame, or neglect? The Buddha taught that true compassion must first flow inwards, nurturing our own being, acknowledging our own vulnerabilities, and accepting our own imperfections. This is not selfishness. It is the essential foundation for genuine, authentic kindness towards anyone else. Imagine your heart as a garden. If the soil is parched and barren, nothing beautiful can grow there. But if you tend to it with care, watering it with self-compassion, nurturing it with acceptance, then it becomes fertile ground for all forms of kindness to flourish. So, we begin by extending metta to ourselves. Find a comfortable position, allowing your body to settle. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your breath. As you breathe, bring to mind the simple yet profound phrases of loving kindness. You can repeat them silently to yourself, allowing their meaning to resonate deep within your being. May I be free from suffering. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be well. Allow these words to wash over you like a gentle, warm current. Do not force the feeling, simply invite it. If resistance arises, if thoughts of self-judgment or unworthiness surface, simply acknowledge them without engaging. Gently return your attention to the phrases. This practice is about softening, about releasing the grip of harsh inner criticism, and about fostering a sense of inner warmth and acceptance. It is about recognizing that you, like all beings, deserve peace and happiness. This self-metta is the bedrock upon which all other forgiveness rests. For how can we truly forgive another if we cannot forgive ourselves for our own perceived shortcomings or past mistakes? This initial act of self-compassion is a profound step towards releasing the anxiety of self-judgment and cultivating a stillness within. Once a sense of warmth and goodwill begins to take root within your own heart, we gently expand the circle. The next natural step is to extend metta to those we love, those for whom we already feel a natural affection and care. This stage helps to build momentum, reinforcing the feeling of loving kindness and making it more accessible. Bring to mind a loved one, someone who brings a smile to your face, someone for whom you feel a deep sense of connection. Hold their image gently in your mind's eye, or simply recall their presence. And then, offer them the same heartfelt wishes. May, loved one, be free from suffering. May, loved one, be happy. May, loved one, be peaceful. May, loved one, be well. Feel the warmth of your heart expanding, flowing outwards to this cherished person. Notice how natural and easy it feels to wish them well. This practice strengthens the bonds of affection and reminds us of the inherent capacity for love that resides within us. It is a gentle expansion of our compassionate awareness, preparing us for the next, more expansive steps. From our loved ones, we then extend our metta to neutral persons. These are individuals we encounter in our daily lives, but for whom we hold no strong feelings, neither affection nor aversion. Perhaps it is the person who serves you coffee, a neighbor you see but rarely speak to, or someone you pass on the street. This step is crucial in dismantling the illusion of separation we explored earlier. It challenges our tendency to categorize people and helps us to extend goodwill universally, beyond our immediate circle of care. Bring to mind a neutral person, someone whose face is familiar but whose story you do not know. See them simply as another human being, navigating their own life, facing their own joys and challenges. And then, offer them the wishes of loving kindness. May, neutral person, be free from suffering. May, neutral person, be happy. May, neutral person, be peaceful. May, neutral person, be well. Notice the subtle shift in your perception. As you offer these wishes, the person who was once just a fleeting image becomes a recipient of your boundless goodwill. This practice helps to dissolve indifference, fostering a quiet recognition of our shared humanity and interconnectedness. It is a gentle way to broaden our compassionate gaze, preparing the heart for its most challenging yet most liberating step. Now we come to the core of metta practice in relation to forgiveness, extending loving kindness to those who have caused us harm, to those with whom we have difficulty, or to those who evoke feelings of anger or resentment. This is often the most challenging stage, and it is vital to approach it with immense patience and gentleness towards yourself. There is no need to force a feeling you do not genuinely have. The intention, the sincere aspiration, is what matters. Bring to mind a person who has caused you pain, someone you find difficult to forgive. As their image or the memory of their actions arises, you may notice resistance, a tightening in your chest, or a surge of old anger. This is natural. Acknowledge these feelings without judgment. Remember, this practice is not about condoning their actions, nor about forgetting the pain. It is about releasing your suffering, about dissolving the energetic knot of resentment that binds you. It is about wishing them peace, not necessarily for their sake alone, but so that they may cease to cause harm, and so that you may be free from the burden of carrying their actions within your own heart. With a soft heart, and with the understanding that they too are subject to suffering and ignorance, offer them these phrases. May, difficult person, be free from suffering. May, difficult person, be happy. May, difficult person, be peaceful. May, difficult person, be well. Repeat these phrases gently, perhaps several times. If the feelings of anger or hurt persist, simply return to wishing yourself peace, or your loved ones peace, and then, when you feel ready, gently return to the difficult person. This is a gradual process of softening the heart, of chipping away at the walls of aversion that we have built. With each sincere wish, even if faint, you are loosening the grip of resentment, allowing a subtle sense of liberation to emerge. You are choosing to release the burden, not for them, but for the profound freedom of your own spirit. This is where the practice of metta directly transforms anxiety into a profound stillness, creating space for healing. Finally, we expand our metta to encompass all beings everywhere, without distinction. This is the culmination of the practice, where our loving kindness becomes truly boundless, flowing outwards like an endless river of compassion. As you breathe, imagine your metta radiating outwards from your heart, touching all living things. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be well. Imagine this wave of loving kindness spreading across your home, your town, your country, and across the entire world. Envision it reaching every creature, every plant, every human being, known and unknown, friend and foe alike. Feel the sense of vastness, of unity, of profound connection that arises from this universal embrace. In this boundless compassion, the illusion of separation completely dissolves, and you are left with a deep, abiding sense of peace and belonging. The systematic cultivation of metta is a powerful tool for forgiveness because it actively counters the very emotions that prevent it. It dismantles aversion, reduces anger, and cultivates empathy. When our heart is filled with loving kindness, there is simply less room for resentment and bitterness. It is a gentle, continuous stream of goodwill that washes away agitation, leaving behind a quiet spaciousness in the mind. For the purpose of peaceful sleep, the practice of metta is profoundly beneficial. A mind and heart filled with loving kindness are naturally more serene, more relaxed. The nervous system calms, the breath deepens, and the incessant chatter of the mind begins to subside. When we lie down to rest with a heart softened by metta, we are not carrying the heavy burdens of past grievances or the anxieties of future worries. Instead, we are cradled in a sense of universal connection, a gentle warmth that invites deep, restorative sleep. Allow these gentle phrases of metta to resonate within you as you prepare for rest. Let the feeling of loving kindness, first for yourself, then for those you cherish, and finally for all beings, be the soothing lullaby that guides you into the night. Release any lingering tensions, any remaining resistance, and simply allow yourself to be held in this boundless embrace of goodwill. In this profound stillness, in this open-hearted acceptance, you will find a relaxation that permeates every cell of your being, leading you to a night of truly peaceful and replenishing sleep. Carry this quiet power of a heart filled with loving kindness into your dreams, knowing that you are connected, you are worthy, and you are at peace. As we allow these gentle phrases of metta to resonate within us, it is important to understand the profound alchemy that is taking place within our hearts and minds. This practice is not merely a mental exercise, it is a deep spiritual cultivation that actively rewires our emotional landscape, shifting us away from reactivity and towards a more spacious, compassionate response to life. The anxiety that often accompanies unforgiveness, the restless churn of past hurts and future worries, begins to find a quiet counterpoint in the steady, unwavering current of loving kindness. Let us delve a little deeper into the profound impact of cultivating metta for ourselves. In a world that often teaches us to be critical, to strive for perfection, and to constantly compare ourselves to others, the practice of self-metta is a radical act of rebellion. It is a deliberate choice to offer ourselves the same kindness, understanding, and acceptance that we so readily extend to a beloved friend. When we repeat, "May I be free from suffering, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be well," we are not just uttering words, we are planting seeds of self-compassion deep within the fertile soil of our being. We are acknowledging our inherent worthiness, our fundamental goodness, regardless of our perceived flaws or past mistakes. This self-acceptance is the very first step towards true inner stillness. When we are constantly battling ourselves, criticizing our thoughts, judging our feelings, the mind remains in a state of agitation. It is like trying to calm a stormy sea by adding more waves. But when we offer ourselves metta, we are offering a gentle anchor. We are saying, "It is okay to be exactly as I am in this moment. I accept myself. I wish myself well." This profound acceptance creates a space for the inner critic to soften its voice, for the relentless striving to ease its grip. In this newfound inner spaciousness, anxiety naturally begins to recede, making way for a quiet sense of peace. Moving to the extension of metta to loved ones, this stage is not just about reinforcing existing affection, but about consciously expanding our capacity for unconditional love. It helps us to recognize the wellspring of compassion that already exists within us. When we offer metta to those we cherish, we are strengthening the neural pathways of kindness, making it easier for these feelings to arise spontaneously. This practice reminds us of the joy and warmth that genuine connection brings, creating a positive emotional reservoir that we can draw upon when facing more challenging emotions. It is a gentle reminder that love is not a finite resource, but an ever-expanding capacity of the heart. The stage of offering metta to neutral persons is a powerful bridge, a crucial step in dissolving the illusion of separation. In our fast-paced world, it is easy to categorize people, to see them merely as roles, the cashier, the driver, the passerby, rather than as complex beings with their own inner lives, their own joys and sorrows. By consciously extending metta to these individuals, we begin to break down these mental categories. We see them not as other, but as fellow travelers on the journey of life, deserving of the same basic wishes for happiness and freedom from suffering as anyone else. This practice cultivates a subtle but profound shift in our perception, fostering a sense of universal kinship and reducing the unconscious judgments that often fuel our anxieties about the world around us. It is a quiet revolution of the heart, expanding our circle of care beyond our immediate sphere. And then we arrive at the most challenging, yet most liberating aspect of metta practice, extending loving kindness to those who have caused us harm, to those we find difficult to forgive. This is where the practice truly becomes a catalyst for profound relaxation and inner peace. It is vital to reiterate that this is not about condoning their actions or denying the pain you experienced. It is about acknowledging that holding on to anger, resentment, and bitterness is a heavy burden that ultimately harms you. When you bring to mind a difficult person and offer them the phrases, "May, difficult person, be free from suffering. May, difficult person, be happy. May, difficult person, be peaceful. May, difficult person, be well." You are performing an act of radical self-compassion. You are wishing for their suffering to cease, not necessarily because you feel affection for them, but because you understand that their suffering is often the root cause of their harmful actions. If they were truly happy, truly peaceful, truly free from their own inner turmoil, they would likely not have acted in a way that caused you pain. By wishing them well, you are subtly wishing for the cessation of the very conditions that led to your own suffering. This practice, therefore, is a profound act of self-liberation. It is a conscious choice to untangle yourself from the energetic knot of grievance. It is like cutting a rope that binds you to another person, a rope that was slowly chafing your own skin. You are not cutting the rope to punish them, but to free yourself. As you repeat these wishes, even if you feel no immediate warmth, you are slowly, gently, chipping away at the walls of aversion and resentment within your own heart. Each repetition is a tiny act of release, a subtle softening of the hardened edges of anger. The beauty of metta is that it does not demand a sudden, dramatic shift in feeling. It is a gradual process, like the slow erosion of a rock by a gentle stream. Over time, with consistent practice, the heart naturally softens, the grip of resentment loosens. The anxiety associated with past hurts begins to dissipate, replaced by a quiet spaciousness. This spaciousness is the fertile ground for true forgiveness to take root, not as an intellectual concept, but as a lived experience of liberation. Finally, the expansion of metta to all beings everywhere is the culmination of this profound practice. It is the realization that our capacity for compassion is truly boundless, an endless wellspring within us. When we extend our loving kindness to every corner of existence, we transcend the limitations of our individual ego and connect with the universal flow of life. In this vast embrace, all sense of separation dissolves, and we are left with a deep, abiding sense of peace, unity, and belonging. The anxieties of our small, separate self are quieted by the profound understanding that we are part of something infinitely larger and more interconnected. For the purpose of guiding you into peaceful sleep, the practice of metta is an invaluable tool. A mind steeped in loving kindness is naturally tranquil. The nervous system, no longer on high alert from the constant internal battle of resentment, begins to calm. The breath deepens, becoming slow and rhythmic. The heart rate settles. The incessant chatter of the mind, fueled by grievances and worries, begins to subside, replaced by a gentle, pervasive sense of goodwill. As you lie in the quiet of the night, allow the warmth of metta to permeate every cell of your being. Feel it as a soft, radiant light emanating from your heart, first bathing yourself in its gentle glow, then extending to those you love, to those you know, and finally, to all beings without exception. Let this boundless compassion be the soothing balm that heals any lingering anxieties, any remaining tensions. Release any need to hold on to what no longer serves your peace. Allow your heart to be open, soft, and expansive. In this state of profound, loving kindness, the mind finds its natural stillness, the body finds its deepest relaxation, and the spirit finds its way home to profound peace. Let the gentle current of metta carry you effortlessly into a night of deep, restorative, and truly peaceful sleep, knowing that you are held in the embrace of universal compassion, and that your own heart is a boundless source of peace. Part 4. The Impermanence of All Things. As the quiet of the night deepens, drawing us further into its gentle embrace, we turn our attention to one of the most fundamental and liberating insights offered by the Buddha, the profound truth of impermanence, known in the ancient language as anicca. This teaching is not meant to evoke sadness or despair, but rather to awaken us to the ever-changing nature of all existence, offering a pathway to release the heavy burdens we often carry and to find a deep, abiding peace. We live in a world that constantly shifts and transforms, yet our minds often cling to the illusion of permanence. We wish for things to stay the same, for joy to last forever, for youth to linger, for relationships to remain unchanged, and even, paradoxically, for our grievances and angers to hold their fixed, solid form. This resistance to the natural flow of change, this clinging to what is inherently transient, is a profound source of anxiety and suffering. It is like trying to grasp water with an open hand. The harder we try to hold it, the more it slips away, leaving us with a sense of loss and frustration. Imagine a river. From moment to moment, the water flows, constantly renewing itself. The river you see now is never exactly the same river you saw a moment ago, nor will it be the same in the next. Yet we call it the river. Our lives, our bodies, our thoughts, our emotions, and indeed all phenomena are like this river. They are in a perpetual state of flux, arising, dwelling for a brief moment, and then passing away. Nothing remains static, nothing is truly fixed. This truth applies directly and powerfully to our experiences of pain, anger, and resentment. When we are hurt, the pain can feel overwhelming, as if it will last forever, defining our entire existence. When anger flares, it can feel like an unshakable force, a solid wall between us and another. When resentment takes root, it can seem like an immutable part of our identity, a story we carry without end. But the teaching of anicca reminds us that these feelings, like everything else, are impermanent. They arise, they dwell, and they will, inevitably, pass away, if we allow them to. Our suffering often comes not from the initial pain itself, but from our clinging to it, our refusal to let it move through us and pass. We replay the hurtful words, reimagine the unjust scene, relitigate the past in the courtroom of our minds. In doing so, we are attempting to hold on to a moment that has already vanished, to make permanent an experience that is, by its very nature, transient. This clinging keeps the wound fresh, preventing it from healing and trapping us in a cycle of continued suffering. The Buddha observed the world with profound clarity, seeing that everything is subject to birth, decay, and death. A beautiful flower blooms, radiates its fragrance, and then inevitably withers. The seasons turn, bringing warmth, then coolness, then cold, only to begin the cycle anew. The clouds drift across the sky, constantly changing shape, appearing and disappearing. Even the mountains, seemingly eternal, are slowly, imperceptibly, being eroded by wind and rain. This constant change is not a flaw in the universe. It is its very essence, its dynamic dance of life. When we resist this fundamental truth, we create tension within ourselves. We become anxious about loss, fearful of change, and desperately try to control what is inherently uncontrollable. This resistance manifests as a tightening in the body, a racing in the mind, a deep sense of unease that prevents us from finding true stillness and relaxation. But when we begin to understand and accept impermanence, a profound sense of liberation can arise. We realize that if all things are transient, then our pain, our anger, our grievances are also transient. They are not fixed entities that we must carry forever, but rather passing clouds in the vast sky of our consciousness. We can observe them, acknowledge their presence, and then, with a gentle awareness, allow them to drift away. This understanding is a powerful catalyst for forgiveness. If the actions that caused us pain were themselves born of impermanent conditions, perhaps the other person's momentary ignorance, their passing state of anger, their own transient suffering, then our clinging to the result of those actions also becomes a clinging to something impermanent. Forgiveness, in this light, is not about erasing the past, but about recognizing its transient nature and refusing to allow a past, impermanent event to dictate our permanent state of peace. It is the wisdom to know that holding on to the past is like trying to stop the flow of the river. It is futile and only causes us exhaustion. Consider the sensation of physical pain. When we stub our toe, the initial pain is sharp and undeniable. But if we observe it without clinging, without adding a layer of mental resistance or frustration, we notice that the pain itself changes. It might throb, then ache, then dull, and eventually fade. If, however, we focus on it intensely, lamenting its presence, wishing it away, we often prolong and intensify the suffering. The same applies to emotional pain. By recognizing its impermanent nature, we create the space for it to naturally subside. The practice of mindfulness is deeply intertwined with the understanding of anicca. When we sit in meditation, we observe our breath, noticing each inhale and exhale as a unique, passing phenomenon. We observe our thoughts, seeing them arise, linger, and then dissolve, like bubbles in water. We observe our emotions, recognizing that even the most intense feelings are not solid, permanent entities, but rather dynamic processes that ebb and flow. This direct observation of impermanence in our own inner experience helps to loosen the grip of attachment. We learn to let go, not through force, but through gentle awareness. This letting go is not indifference. It is a wise, compassionate detachment that allows us to engage fully with life, to appreciate its beauty and its challenges, without being enslaved by its ever-changing nature. We can love deeply, experience joy fully, and even feel sorrow profoundly, knowing that these experiences too are part of the flow and will eventually transform. This allows us to hold life lightly, with open hands, rather than with a desperate, clinging grasp. When we apply this wisdom to forgiveness, it becomes a path of profound liberation. The person who wronged us, their state of mind at that moment, the specific circumstances of the event, all of these were impermanent. The anger we feel, the resentment we harbor, these too are impermanent. By recognizing this, we can choose to release our attachment to the story of the past. We can choose to stop recreating the suffering in our present moment. Imagine a beautiful sand mandala, meticulously crafted over days or weeks with intricate patterns and vibrant colors. It is a work of immense beauty and devotion. Yet, at the culmination of the ceremony, it is deliberately swept away, its sands poured into a river. This act symbolizes the profound truth of impermanence, reminding us that even the most beautiful and cherished creations are transient. The beauty lies not in its permanence, but in its creation, its existence in the moment, and its graceful dissolution. In the same way, our experiences, both joyful and painful, are like these mandalas. They arise, they are experienced, and then they dissolve back into the flow of existence. To cling to the dissolved mandala, to wish it was still there, is to deny the natural order. This understanding brings a deep sense of relaxation. When we are constantly fighting against the current of change, our bodies and minds are tense. We are always bracing for impact, always trying to hold on. But when we surrender to the flow of impermanence, when we trust that all things will pass, a profound lightness emerges. The shoulders drop, the jaw softens, the breath deepens. The mind, no longer battling against reality, finds a quiet stillness. This stillness is not emptiness, but spaciousness. It is the space that opens up when we release our grip on the past and cease our struggle with the present. In this spaciousness, there is room for peace, for clarity, and for genuine rest. The anxieties that stem from holding on to fixed ideas of how things should be or should have been begin to dissipate. We realize that the only constant is change itself, and in embracing this constant, we find a steady ground for our being. As you prepare for sleep, allow the truth of impermanence to wash over you like a gentle wave. Let the worries of the day, lingering thoughts, the small irritations, be like clouds drifting across the vast sky of your mind. Observe them without judgment, acknowledge their presence, and then gently allow them to pass. Recognize that the tensions in your body, the restlessness in your mind, are also impermanent. They have arisen, and they too will pass. Surrender to the flow. Release your grip on any past hurts or future anxieties. Trust in the natural rhythm of arising and passing away. In this profound acceptance of impermanence, you will find a deep, unshakable peace. Your mind, no longer striving to hold on to what cannot be held, can finally rest. Your body, no longer tense with resistance, can finally relax. Let this understanding be the soothing balm that guides you into a night of truly peaceful, restorative, and deeply tranquil sleep, knowing that all things, even your worries, are simply passing through. As you prepare for sleep, allow the truth of impermanence to wash over you like a gentle wave. Let the worries of the day, the lingering thoughts, the small irritations, be like clouds drifting across the vast sky of your mind. Observe them without judgment, acknowledge their presence, and then gently allow them to pass. Recognize that the tensions in your body, the restlessness in your mind, are also impermanent. They have arisen, and they too will pass. Surrender to the flow. Release your grip on any past hurts or future anxieties. Trust in the natural rhythm of arising and passing away. In this profound acceptance of impermanence, you will find a deep, unshakable peace. Your mind, no longer striving to hold on to what cannot be held, can finally rest. Your body, no longer tense with resistance, can finally relax. Let this understanding be the soothing balm that guides you into a night of truly peaceful, restorative, and deeply tranquil sleep, knowing that all things, even your worries, are simply passing through. This deep acceptance of anicca, the impermanent nature of all things, is not a passive resignation, but an active, intelligent engagement with reality. It is a profound wisdom that frees us from the endless cycle of grasping and aversion. When we cling to pleasant experiences, wishing them to last forever, we set ourselves up for disappointment and sorrow when they inevitably change. When we push away unpleasant experiences, resisting their presence, we only intensify our suffering. The teaching of impermanence invites us to meet each moment, each sensation, each thought, with an open heart and a clear mind, knowing that it is simply a fleeting visitor in the vast expanse of our awareness. Consider the nature of grief. When we lose someone or something dear to us, the pain can feel monumental, as if a part of us has been irrevocably torn away. In our initial shock, we often resist the reality of the loss, wishing things could return to how they were. This resistance, while natural, prolongs the acute suffering. But as we slowly, gently, begin to accept the impermanence of life, the truth that all beings and all forms are subject to change and dissolution, a different kind of healing can begin. We don't forget the love or the connection, but we release our desperate clinging to the form it once took. We understand that even our own identity, our sense of self, is not a fixed, solid entity, but a constantly evolving process. This understanding allows grief to flow through us, transforming from a sharp, agonizing wound into a softer, more integrated part of our experience, like a river finding its way to the sea. This applies equally to the specific pains of unforgiveness. The anger you feel, the resentment that gnaws at your peace, the memory of the slight. These are not solid, immutable objects. They are mental formations, conditioned by past events, sustained by present thoughts. But like all mental formations, they are impermanent. They arise, they dwell, and they can pass away. If we give them space, if we observe them without feeding them with more thoughts of justification or blame, they will naturally lose their intensity and eventually dissolve. This is the profound liberation that anicca offers, the realization that we do not have to be defined by our past pains or our current angers. We have the capacity to let them go, to allow them to pass like clouds across the sky. The anxiety that often accompanies a restless mind is deeply rooted in our resistance to impermanence. We worry about the future because we fear change. We regret the past because we wish things had been different. We cling to the present because we fear its passing. This constant mental struggle against the flow of time keeps us agitated, preventing the deep relaxation that leads to peaceful sleep. But when we embrace impermanence, a profound sense of trust emerges. We trust in the natural unfolding of life. We understand that just as the seasons change, just as the day turns into night, so too will our experiences, our emotions, and our circumstances continue to transform. This trust is a powerful antidote to anxiety. Imagine a leaf falling from a tree in autumn. It does not cling desperately to the branch, resisting its inevitable descent. It gracefully lets go, surrendering to the wind, knowing that its purpose in that form is complete and that its dissolution will nourish the earth for new life. We, too, can learn from the wisdom of the leaf. We can learn to let go gracefully, to surrender to the flow of change, knowing that each ending is also a new beginning, each dissolution a transformation. This surrender is not a defeat. It is a profound act of wisdom and courage. In the quiet practice of meditation, we often cultivate this awareness of impermanence. We notice the subtle shifts in our posture, the changing sensations in our body, the arising and passing of sounds. We observe the breath, each inhale and exhale, a unique, never-to-be-repeated event. We watch our thoughts and emotions, recognizing them as transient phenomena, like waves on the ocean, rising and falling. This direct, experiential understanding of anicca deeply calms the mind. It teaches us not to grasp, not to cling, not to resist, but simply to observe and allow. This gentle allowing is the essence of true relaxation. When we stop fighting against the nature of reality, when we release our resistance to change, the body naturally softens. The muscles release their tension. The breath becomes deeper and more even. The mind, no longer burdened by the need to control or hold on to, finds a quiet spaciousness. This spaciousness is where true peace resides, a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, but arises from an inner alignment with the fundamental truth of existence. For the purpose of guiding you into peaceful sleep, this understanding of impermanence is a profound gift. As you lie down to rest, allow any lingering thoughts of the day, any worries about tomorrow, any echoes of past hurts, to simply be. Do not try to push them away, for that is another form of clinging. Instead, simply observe them, acknowledge their presence, and then gently remind yourself, this too is impermanent. This too will pass. Imagine them as clouds drifting across the vast, clear sky of your awareness. You are the sky, unchanging and boundless, while the thoughts and emotions are merely passing clouds. Let go of the need to hold on to anything. Release your grip on expectations, on outcomes, on the desire for things to be different than they are. Surrender to the natural rhythm of life, to the ebb and flow of existence. In this profound surrender, in this deep acceptance of impermanence, your mind will find its natural stillness, your body will find its deepest relaxation, and your spirit will find its way home to profound peace. Let this understanding be the soothing balm that guides you into a night of truly peaceful, restorative, and deeply tranquil sleep, knowing that all things, even your worries, are simply passing through, leaving behind the quiet, unchanging essence of your true nature. Part 5. Wisdom of Non-Retaliation. As the night deepens around us, cradling us in its quiet embrace, we turn our minds to another profound teaching from the heart of Buddhist wisdom, the wisdom of non-retaliation. This teaching, often misunderstood as weakness or passivity, is in fact a powerful, active choice that requires immense courage, clarity, and inner strength. It is a path that breaks the endless cycle of suffering, transforming negative interactions into opportunities for peace and understanding, and ultimately liberating our own hearts from the heavy burden of anger and vengeance. In our human experience, the impulse to retaliate is deeply ingrained. When we feel wronged, hurt, or attacked, a natural, almost primal urge arises to strike back, to defend ourselves, to ensure that the other person experiences a measure of the pain they have inflicted. This impulse often feels like justice, like a necessary assertion of our boundaries or our worth. Yet, the Buddha, with his profound insight into the nature of suffering, revealed that this path of an eye for an eye only leads to a world of blindness, perpetuating an endless chain of pain and retribution. Imagine a fire. If you try to extinguish a fire by adding more fuel to it, it will only grow larger, hotter, more destructive. Similarly, when we respond to anger with anger, to hatred with hatred, to harm with harm, we are simply adding fuel to the fire of conflict. We are not extinguishing it, we are feeding it, ensuring that its flames will continue to burn, consuming not only the other person, but also ourselves. The Buddha taught that hatred never ceases by hatred. By love alone does it cease. This is an eternal law. This simple truth, profound in its implications, is the cornerstone of non-retaliation. The wisdom of non-retaliation is not about condoning the actions of another, nor is it about allowing oneself to be continually harmed. It is about a conscious, deliberate choice to step out of the reactive cycle of aggression. It is about recognizing that when someone acts with anger or malice, they themselves are often caught in a web of suffering, ignorance, or confusion. Their actions, however painful to us, are often a manifestation of their own inner turmoil. To respond in kind is to become entangled in that same turmoil, to allow their suffering to become our own. Consider the story of a man who approached the Buddha, filled with rage, and began to hurl insults and curses. The Buddha listened calmly, his presence radiating an unshakable peace. When the man finally exhausted himself, the Buddha gently asked, "If someone offers a gift to another, and the other person refuses to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man, still seething, replied, "It belongs to the one who offered it." The Buddha smiled softly and said, "Then, my friend, you have offered me your anger and your insults. I choose not to accept them. To whom do they now belong?" The man was stunned into silence. In that moment, he realized the profound truth. The anger he had projected outwards, unaccepted, returned to him, becoming his own burden. This story beautifully illustrates the liberating power of non-retaliation. When we refuse to accept the gift of another's anger, when we choose not to engage in the reactive dance of blame and retribution, we are not only protecting our own inner peace, but also subtly disarming the aggressor. We are refusing to participate in the cycle of suffering, thereby creating a space for something new, something more wholesome to arise. The choice of non-retaliation is an active one, rooted in deep wisdom and compassion. It requires us to pause, to observe the impulse to react, and then consciously choose a different path. This pause, this moment of mindful awareness, is where true freedom lies. Instead of being swept away by the current of anger, we find our footing, our inner stillness, and choose to respond from a place of clarity and peace. This is not weakness, it is strength, the strength to control our own mind rather than being controlled by external provocations. When we choose non-retaliation, we are primarily liberating ourselves. Holding on to anger and seeking revenge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The bitterness, the resentment, the constant replaying of past wrongs, these are the poisons that corrode our own well-being, stealing our peace, disturbing our sleep, and clouding our judgment. By choosing not to retaliate, we are choosing to release ourselves from this self-inflicted suffering. We are choosing to lay down the heavy burden of vengeance and walk lighter on the path of life. This path of non-retaliation also opens the door to a deeper understanding. When we are not consumed by the desire for revenge, we create space to see the other person more clearly. We might begin to recognize their own suffering, their own fears, their own conditioning that led to their harmful actions. This does not excuse their behavior, but it allows us to approach the situation with empathy rather than pure condemnation. It allows us to see them as fellow human beings, caught in their own web of dukkha, rather than simply as an enemy. This shift in perspective is crucial for genuine forgiveness and for breaking the cycle of animosity. Consider the ripple effect of our actions. If we respond to harm with harm, we are essentially sending out more negative energy into the world, perpetuating the very conditions that caused our initial pain. But if we choose non-retaliation, if we respond with a calm presence, with a wise silence, or even with a gentle word, we are sending out a different kind of ripple. We are introducing a ripple of peace, of understanding, of compassion. This does not mean that every interaction will immediately transform, but it means we are doing our part to shift the collective consciousness towards healing rather than continued conflict. We are choosing to be a source of peace, not a source of further agitation. The practice of non-retaliation is intimately connected to the cultivation of metta, or loving kindness, which we explored earlier. When our hearts are filled with the sincere wish for the happiness and freedom from suffering of all beings, even those who have caused us harm, the impulse to retaliate naturally diminishes. It becomes incongruous with the boundless compassion we are cultivating. Metta softens the heart, dissolves the barriers of aversion, and makes the choice of non-retaliation feel less like a sacrifice and more like a natural expression of our awakened nature. This wisdom is not about being a doormat or allowing injustice to prevail. The Buddha also taught about skillful means and wise action. Sometimes, non-retaliation might mean setting clear boundaries, removing oneself from a harmful situation, or seeking justice through peaceful, legal means. But even in these actions, the underlying motivation is crucial. Are we acting from a place of anger and vengeance, or from a place of wisdom, compassion, and a desire to prevent further suffering for all involved? The wisdom of non-retaliation guides us towards the latter, ensuring that our actions, even when firm, are rooted in peace rather than further conflict. For our inner peace, this teaching is profoundly liberating. The anxiety of constantly being on guard, the mental energy expended in planning revenge or replaying grievances, the restless churn of anger, all of this dissipates when we consciously choose the path of non-retaliation. The mind, no longer consumed by the desire to strike back, finds a quiet spaciousness. The body, no longer tense with suppressed rage, begins to relax. This stillness, this profound relaxation, is the direct result of breaking free from the cycle of aggression and embracing a higher wisdom. As you settle deeper into the quiet of the night, allow this teaching to resonate within you. Reflect on any lingering feelings of resentment or the desire for retribution that you might be holding on to. Imagine those feelings as heavy chains, binding you to the past, keeping your heart agitated. Now, gently, consciously, choose to release them. Choose the path of non-retaliation, not for the sake of the other person, but for the profound freedom and peace of your own spirit. Let the wisdom of the Buddha guide you towards a deeper understanding, that true strength lies not in striking back, but in choosing peace. True power lies not in perpetuating the cycle of suffering, but in breaking it. As you release the need to retaliate, feel the tension in your body soften, the tightness in your jaw relax, the restlessness in your mind subside. Embrace the quiet courage of non-retaliation and allow its profound peace to cradle you into a night of deep, undisturbed, and truly restorative sleep. Let this wisdom be the gentle guardian of your dreams, ensuring that your heart remains open, your mind serene, and your spirit free. The Buddha's teachings on non-retaliation extend beyond individual interactions to encompass a broader vision of peace. He recognized that wars and conflicts, whether between individuals or nations, are fueled by the same underlying impulses: fear, hatred, and the desire for vengeance. By choosing non-retaliation, we are actively contributing to a culture of peace, starting within our own hearts. Each time we consciously choose not to respond to anger with anger, we are casting a vote for compassion, for understanding, for a more harmonious way of being in the world. This is not a passive act, but a revolutionary one, transforming the very fabric of our reality, one peaceful choice at a time. Imagine a world where this wisdom was universally embraced. The endless cycles of violence, the bitter feuds, the generational resentments that plague humanity would begin to unravel. This profound vision, while seemingly utopian, begins with the individual choice, the quiet revolution within each heart. As you lie in the stillness, consider the immense power of your own choice. Your decision to cultivate non-retaliation is a ripple of peace, extending outwards, touching not only your own life, but subtly influencing the vast, interconnected web of existence. This practice also cultivates a deep sense of self-respect. When we succumb to the impulse to retaliate, we often act from a place of reactive emotion, which can lead to actions or words we later regret. Such regrets can linger, creating a new layer of self-judgment and anxiety. But when we choose non-retaliation, we are acting from a place of mindful awareness, of inner wisdom. We are aligning our actions with our highest values, thereby fostering a deep sense of integrity and self-worth. This inner congruence is a powerful source of peace and contentment, allowing the mind to rest without the burden of regret or the agitation of internal conflict. The path of non-retaliation is a testament to the transformative power of the human spirit. It demonstrates that we are not merely creatures of instinct, bound by the law of fight or flight. We possess the profound capacity for conscious choice, for compassion, for wisdom. This capacity is our greatest strength, our truest freedom. By exercising this capacity, by choosing non-retaliation, we are not only healing our own wounds, but also contributing to the healing of the world. As you drift closer to sleep, let the image of a calm, still lake come to mind. When a stone is thrown into it, ripples spread. The impulse to retaliate is like throwing another stone, creating more turbulent ripples. The wisdom of non-retaliation is like allowing the initial ripples to simply dissipate, letting the water return to its natural stillness. You have the power to choose stillness. You have the power to choose peace. Release any lingering tension in your body, allowing your muscles to soften and relax. Let your breath deepen, flowing gently and evenly. Feel the quiet strength that comes from making a conscious choice for peace, for forgiveness, for non-retaliation. This profound sense of inner calm, born from wisdom and compassion, is the perfect companion for a night of deep, restorative sleep. Allow yourself to be cradled in this peace, knowing that you have chosen the path of liberation and that your heart is now free to rest in profound serenity. As you drift closer to sleep, let the image of a calm, still lake come to mind. When a stone is thrown into it, ripples spread. The impulse to retaliate is like throwing another stone, creating more turbulent ripples. The wisdom of non-retaliation is like allowing the initial ripples to simply dissipate, letting the water return to its natural stillness. You have the power to choose stillness. You have the power to choose peace. Release any lingering tension in your body, allowing your muscles to soften and relax. Let your breath deepen, flowing gently and evenly. Feel the quiet strength that comes from making a conscious choice for peace, for forgiveness, for non-retaliation. This profound sense of inner calm, born from wisdom and compassion, is the perfect companion for a night of deep, restorative sleep. Allow yourself to be cradled in this peace, knowing that you have chosen the path of liberation and that your heart is now free to rest in profound serenity. This wisdom of non-retaliation is not a passive acceptance of injustice, but a strategic and profound spiritual stance. It is an understanding that true power lies not in matching aggression, but in transcending it. When we choose non-retaliation, we are not denying the reality of harm or the validity of our pain. Instead, we are recognizing that our response to that harm has the potential to either perpetuate suffering or to initiate healing. We are choosing the latter, not out of weakness, but out of a deep and clear-sighted wisdom. Consider the immense energy that is consumed by anger and the desire for revenge. It is a relentless, consuming fire within, draining our vitality, clouding our judgment, and preventing us from experiencing joy or peace. The mind becomes a battlefield, constantly replaying scenarios, strategizing counterattacks, and reliving the pain. This state of constant internal conflict is utterly antithetical to relaxation and peaceful sleep. It keeps the nervous system on high alert, even when the external threat is long gone. By contrast, the choice of non-retaliation frees up this immense internal energy. It transforms the battlefield into a sanctuary. The mind, no longer consumed by the desire for vengeance, can turn its attention to healing, to growth, to cultivating peace. This release of internal tension is profoundly relaxing. It allows the body to soften, the breath to deepen, and the mind to settle into a natural state of ease. The anxiety that often accompanies the cycle of retaliation begins to dissipate, replaced by a quiet confidence born of inner strength. The Buddha often emphasized the importance of mastering one's own mind. He taught that true victory is not over others, but over oneself. When we choose non-retaliation, we are engaging in this ultimate victory. We are conquering the reactive impulses of anger and hatred within our own hearts. We are demonstrating a profound mastery over our inner landscape, choosing peace and compassion even in the face of provocation. This inner mastery is the source of genuine, unshakable peace. This teaching also fosters a deeper sense of empathy. When we are not consumed by our own desire for revenge, we create space to consider the perspective of the other person. We might ask ourselves, what led them to act in that way? What suffering might they be carrying? What ignorance might be clouding their judgment? This does not mean we excuse their actions, but it allows us to see them as complex human beings rather than simply as villains. This empathetic understanding, even if it does not lead to reconciliation, profoundly transforms our own internal experience of the situation, softening the edges of our anger and opening the heart to a more expansive compassion. The practice of non-retaliation is a continuous cultivation, not a one-time event. There will be moments when the old impulses arise, when the desire to strike back feels strong. In these moments, we return to the wisdom of the Buddha. Pause, observe, and choose. Choose to breathe deeply. Choose to remember the interconnectedness of all beings. Choose to cultivate loving kindness. And most importantly, choose to release the burden of anger, knowing that its only true victim is the one who carries it. As you lie in the quiet of your space, allow the profound peace that comes from this choice to permeate your entire being. Feel the gentle release of any lingering tension in your muscles, in your jaw, in your forehead. Let your breath flow effortlessly, a soft rhythm guiding you deeper into relaxation. The wisdom of non-retaliation is not just a teaching, it is a lived experience of freedom. It is the quiet strength that allows you to rest, unburdened by the conflicts of the past, unagitated by the impulses of the present. Embrace this profound liberation. Let your mind be still, your heart be open, and your spirit be free. Allow the deep, soothing calm that arises from this wisdom to gently carry you into a night of profound, undisturbed, and truly peaceful sleep. Rest in the knowledge that you have chosen the path of peace and that your inner sanctuary is now serene and safe. Part 6. Forgiving oneself. As the night deepens, wrapping us in its gentle quietude, we turn our gaze inward to a profound and often overlooked aspect of the path to peace, the practice of forgiving oneself. In our journey through the Buddha's teachings, we have explored the suffering caused by holding on to anger towards others, the illusion of separation, and the power of loving kindness. Yet, for many, the heaviest burden is not the resentment directed outwards, but the relentless self-blame, regret, and guilt that we carry within our own hearts. This internal struggle, this constant self-condemnation, is a significant barrier to true inner peace, a relentless source of anxiety that can disturb our stillness and prevent the deep, restorative sleep we yearn for. Imagine, for a moment, that you are carrying a heavy stone in your pocket. It is not a stone thrown by another, but one you picked up yourself, perhaps years ago, after a mistake, a perceived failure, or an action you deeply regret. You carry it everywhere, its weight a constant reminder, its presence a subtle but persistent drain on your energy. You might believe that by carrying this stone are somehow atoning, or that its weight will prevent you from making similar mistakes in the future. Yet in truth, it only serves to weigh you down, to keep you tethered to the past, and to prevent you from moving forward with lightness and freedom. This stone is the burden of unforgiven self. The Buddha's wisdom, while focusing on universal principles, deeply understood this human tendency for self-recrimination. He recognized that suffering arises not just from external circumstances, but profoundly from our internal reactions and attachments. Our attachment to a fixed idea of ourselves, a good self that should never err, or a bad self forever stained by past actions, becomes a source of immense anguish. When we cling to the memory of our mistakes, replaying them endlessly in our minds, we are, in essence, refusing to allow ourselves the same compassion and understanding we might extend to a friend. We become our own harshest judge, our own most relentless tormentor. This self-blame often arises from a misunderstanding of the nature of existence itself. We forget the truth of impermanence, anicca, which teaches us that all things, including our past actions and the person we were in that moment, are constantly changing. The self that made a mistake in the past is not the immutable self of this present moment. We are not fixed entities, but dynamic, evolving processes. To cling to a past mistake as if it defines our entire being is to deny this fundamental truth of change and renewal. It is to deny our inherent capacity for growth and transformation. In Buddhist philosophy, mistakes are often seen as arising from ignorance, from a lack of awareness, or from being caught in conditioned patterns of mind and emotion. They are not viewed as inherent sin that permanently stains the soul, but as opportunities for learning and awakening. When we understand this, we can approach our past actions with a different quality of mind, one of gentle inquiry rather than harsh condemnation. We can ask, what were the conditions that led to this action? What was I unaware of? What can I learn from this? This shift from judgment to understanding is the first step towards self-forgiveness. The core teaching of Buddha nature is profoundly relevant here. It states that all sentient beings possess an inherent potential for awakening, a pure, untainted essence that lies beneath the layers of confusion, defilements, and conditioned patterns. Even when we make mistakes, even when we act in ways we regret, this fundamental goodness, this inherent wisdom, remains untouched, like the sun hidden behind clouds. Self-forgiveness is about reconnecting with this inherent goodness, recognizing that our mistakes do not diminish our fundamental worth. It is about seeing through the temporary clouds of our actions to the radiant sun of our true nature. This is a crucial distinction from some Western notions of inherent guilt. Buddhist wisdom emphasizes purification and transformation rather than eternal condemnation. The path is always open for renewal, for learning, for cultivating wholesome actions in the present moment that can purify the effects of past unwholesome ones. To deny ourselves this possibility, to remain locked in self-blame, is to deny our own Buddha nature, to refuse the very path to liberation that is open to us. The practice of self-forgiveness is not about denying responsibility or condoning past actions. Far from it. It begins with honest acknowledgement. We look clearly at what happened, without evasion, without making excuses. We understand the causes and conditions that led to our actions. This is a moment of profound truthfulness. But after this acknowledgement, the practice shifts from self-flagellation to sincere regret and a firm intention to avoid repeating similar mistakes. This regret is not a heavy, self-punishing emotion, but a clear-eyed recognition of harm caused, coupled with a compassionate resolve to do better. Once we have acknowledged and learned, the next crucial step is to release the burden of guilt. The lesson remains, the understanding stays, but the heavy, suffocating weight of self-condemnation is gently laid down. It is the understanding that clinging to guilt is like trying to pay a debt that has already been accounted for. The past is past. The present moment offers a fresh opportunity for renewal, for kindness, for making amends if possible, and for simply being present with an open heart. This is where the cultivation of self-compassion, a specific application of metta, becomes profoundly healing. Just as we offered loving kindness to ourselves at the beginning of our metta practice, we now explicitly direct it towards the parts of us that feel flawed, regretful, or unworthy. Find a comfortable position, allowing your body to settle. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your breath. As you breathe, bring to mind the specific mistake or regret you are holding on to. Acknowledge the feeling of self-blame, perhaps a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach. And then, with immense tenderness, repeat these phrases silently to yourself. May I be free from self-condemnation. May I accept myself as I am, with all my imperfections. May I be kind to myself, just as I would be kind to a dear friend. May I forgive myself for my past actions and move forward with wisdom and compassion. May I be peaceful. May I be well. Allow these words to wash over you like a gentle, warm current. Do not force the feeling, simply invite it. If the inner critic arises, if thoughts of, "I don't deserve this," surface, simply acknowledge them without engaging. Gently return your attention to the phrases of self-compassion. This practice is about softening the inner critic, about creating a nurturing internal environment where healing can occur. It is about treating yourself as you would treat a dear friend who has made a mistake, with understanding, with encouragement, and with the belief in their capacity for growth. This act of self-compassion is a powerful way to break the cycle of self-punishment. When we are consumed by guilt, we often unconsciously sabotage our own happiness, believing we don't deserve it. We might shy away from opportunities, push away genuine connection, or remain stuck in patterns of suffering. Self-forgiveness is the courageous act of breaking this cycle, of allowing ourselves to heal, to grow, and to move forward with a renewed sense of purpose and worth. It is about recognizing that we are worthy of peace and joy, despite our past imperfections. It is an affirmation of our inherent Buddha nature, our fundamental capacity for goodness and liberation. In the Buddhist understanding of karma, it is not simply about punishment, but about the consequences of intention and action. While past actions have their effects, present wholesome actions and a change of heart can purify past negative karma. Self-forgiveness, coupled with a sincere intention to cultivate wisdom and compassion, is a powerful act of purification. It allows us to release the mental and emotional residue of past mistakes, creating space for new, wholesome seeds to be planted in the garden of our mind. The liberating power of self-forgiveness is immense. When we release the heavy burden of self-guilt, a profound sense of lightness emerges. The constant anxiety of not being good enough or of being forever marked by past actions begins to dissipate. This lightness opens the heart to genuine peace and relaxation. It allows us to connect authentically with ourselves, free from the masks of self-defense or shame. And crucially, when we forgive ourselves, we become more capable of forgiving others. The internal barriers that prevented us from extending compassion outwards begin to dissolve as we recognize the shared human experience of imperfection and the universal need for understanding. This leads to a deep, unburdened stillness, essential for peaceful sleep. When the mind is no longer battling itself, when the heart is no longer weighed down by self-condemnation, it can finally rest. The nervous system calms, the breath deepens, and the entire being can surrender to the quiet embrace of the night. As you prepare for sleep, take a moment to reflect on any lingering self-blame or regret you might be carrying. Gently acknowledge these feelings without judgment. Do not try to push them away, but simply observe them with a soft, compassionate gaze. Then, invite yourself to offer these feelings the warmth of self-metta. Recognize your inherent Buddha nature, your fundamental goodness that remains untainted by any past action. Choose, in this quiet moment, to release the burden of self-condemnation. Lay down that heavy stone you have been carrying. Understand that each moment is a fresh opportunity for renewal, for kindness towards yourself, and for moving forward with a heart free from the shackles of the past. Allow this profound act of self-forgiveness to wash over you, bringing a deep sense of relaxation to your mind, your body, and your spirit. Let this be the gentle lullaby that guides you into a night of truly peaceful, restorative, and deeply tranquil sleep, knowing that you are worthy of peace, worthy of happiness, and worthy of your own boundless compassion. As you prepare for sleep, take a moment to reflect on any lingering self-blame or regret you might be carrying. Gently acknowledge these feelings without judgment. Do not try to push them away, but simply observe them with a soft, compassionate gaze. Then, invite yourself to offer these feelings the warmth of self-metta. Recognize your inherent Buddha nature, your fundamental goodness that remains untainted by any past action. Choose, in this quiet moment, to release the burden of self-condemnation. Lay down that heavy stone you have been carrying. Understand that each moment is a fresh opportunity for renewal, for kindness towards yourself, and for moving forward with a heart free from the shackles of the past. Allow this profound act of self-forgiveness to wash over you, bringing a deep sense of relaxation to your mind, your body, and your spirit. Let this be the gentle lullaby that guides you into a night of truly peaceful, restorative, and deeply tranquil sleep, knowing that you are worthy of peace, worthy of happiness, and worthy of your own boundless compassion. This journey of self-forgiveness is not a destination, but a continuous practice, much like tending a garden. There may be moments when old weeds of self-doubt or regret try to sprout again. In those moments, we don't harshly pull them out, but gently acknowledge their presence and then return to the cultivation of self-compassion. We remind ourselves of our inherent Buddha nature, our capacity for learning and growth. We offer ourselves the same patience and understanding that a wise gardener offers to a struggling plant. The anxiety that often accompanies self-blame is a relentless internal chatter, a constant replaying of what-ifs and should-haves. This mental noise prevents the mind from settling, from finding the quiet stillness necessary for deep rest. It keeps the nervous system in a state of subtle agitation, making it difficult to fully relax and surrender to sleep. When we consciously choose to forgive ourselves, we are essentially quieting this internal critic, turning down the volume on the self-judgment, and creating a space of inner peace. This act of inner peace is a direct pathway to profound relaxation. Think of the mind as a vast, open sky. Self-blame and regret are like dark, heavy storm clouds that obscure the sun. They make the sky feel oppressive and dim. But when we practice self-forgiveness, it is like allowing those clouds to gently dissipate, revealing the vast, clear, boundless sky that was always there. The sky itself was never harmed by the clouds. It simply appeared obscured. Similarly, our inherent goodness, our Buddha nature, is never truly harmed by our mistakes. It simply appears obscured by the clouds of self-condemnation. By releasing these clouds, we reveal the natural radiance and clarity of our own being. This radical act of self-acceptance is profoundly empowering. It frees us from the need to constantly prove ourselves, to strive for an impossible perfection, or to hide our perceived flaws. When we accept ourselves, mistakes and all, we become more authentic, more grounded, and more genuinely present in the world. This authenticity is a powerful source of inner strength and confidence, reducing the anxiety that comes from constantly trying to be someone we are not. In the quiet of a Zen monastery, the practice of self-reflection is often accompanied by a deep sense of non-judgment. Monks observe their thoughts and actions, not to condemn, but to understand. They recognize that every action, every thought, every emotion arises from a complex web of causes and conditions. By understanding these conditions, they can cultivate wisdom and compassion, both for themselves and for others. This gentle, investigative approach is a powerful model for our own journey of self-forgiveness. It moves us away from harsh judgment and towards a compassionate understanding of our own human experience. The act of forgiving oneself is also a profound act of courage. It requires us to face our past actions, to acknowledge the pain we may have caused, to ourselves or to others, and then to consciously choose to release the burden of guilt. This is not always easy, but the liberation that follows is immense. It allows us to step out of the shadows of the past and into the light of the present moment, fully present, fully alive, and fully capable of cultivating wholesome actions. Moreover, when we forgive ourselves, we become more capable of forgiving others. The compassion we extend inwards naturally flows outwards. When we understand our own struggles, our own imperfections, our own capacity for making mistakes, we develop a deeper empathy for the struggles and imperfections of others. the rigid boundaries of judgment begin to soften, and the heart opens more fully to the shared human experience of striving, falling, and rising again. This interconnectedness in forgiveness is a beautiful cycle of healing. As you lie in the stillness of the night, allow yourself to fully embrace this profound teaching. Recognize that you are a being of inherent worth, capable of learning, growing, and transforming. Release the heavy stone of self-blame. Let go of the relentless inner critic. Allow your heart to be soft, open, and kind towards yourself. Feel the tension in your body gently melt away, as if a warm, soothing light is washing over you, releasing every knot of anxiety, every trace of regret. Let your breath become a gentle, rhythmic tide, carrying you deeper and deeper into a state of profound relaxation. The peace that arises from self-forgiveness is not a fleeting emotion. It is a deep, abiding stillness that permeates your entire being. Allow this stillness to cradle you. Trust in your capacity for renewal. Rest in the knowledge that you are worthy of peace, worthy of compassion, and worthy of a night of deep, undisturbed, and truly restorative sleep. Let the quiet power of self-forgiveness be the gentle guardian of your dreams, ensuring that your heart remains open, your mind serene, and your spirit free from the burdens of the past. You are now unburdened, ready to embrace the profound peace that awaits you. Part 7. Understanding Intent and Karma. As the night deepens and the world outside settles into its quiet repose, we turn our minds to a profound and often misunderstood teaching from the Buddha, the intricate dance of intention and karma. For many, the word karma evokes a sense of rigid fate, a cosmic ledger of good and bad deeds that inevitably leads to reward or punishment. This limited understanding can often be a source of anxiety, a subtle fear of past actions catching up to us, or a harsh judgment of others based on their perceived karmic destiny. Yet, the Buddha's true teaching on karma is far more nuanced, deeply compassionate, and profoundly liberating. It is a teaching that, when truly understood, can dissolve the knots of resentment, cultivate boundless empathy, and guide us towards a deep, unshakable peace. At its heart, karma is not about fate, but about action, and crucially, about intention. The Buddha emphasized that it is the intention behind an action, the state of mind from which it arises, that determines its karmic fruit. He said, "It is intention, I tell you, that is karma. Having willed, one acts by body, speech, or intellect." This insight is revolutionary, shifting our focus from merely the outward act to the inner landscape of the mind. An action performed out of malice, hatred, or greed will have different karmic consequences than a similar action performed out of ignorance, fear, or even a misguided attempt at kindness. Imagine two people accidentally bump into each other. One person reacts with a surge of anger, immediately assuming malice, and lashes out with harsh words. The other, also startled, takes a moment, recognizes it as an accident, and offers a gentle apology. The outward event is similar, but the internal intention, the mental state, is vastly different. The first person, by clinging to anger and projecting malice, creates unwholesome karma for themselves, sowing seeds of agitation and suffering in their own mind stream. The second, by cultivating patience and compassion, sows seeds of peace and understanding. Karma, then, is not a judgment from an external deity, but the natural law of cause and effect operating within our own consciousness. Our intentions are the seeds, and our experiences are the fruits. This understanding is profoundly important when we consider the actions of others, especially those who have caused us pain. Often, when someone harms us, our immediate reaction is to label them as bad or evil, to attribute their actions to pure malice. This judgment, while understandable, often reinforces our own anger and resentment, keeping us trapped in a cycle of unforgiveness. But the Buddha's teaching on intention invites us to look deeper. It asks us to consider the possibility that the person who caused us harm may not have acted from a place of pure, unadulterated evil, but rather from a place of their own suffering, their own ignorance, their own unskillful conditioning. Think of a child who lashes out in anger. While their actions might be hurtful, we instinctively understand that their behavior often stems from fear, frustration, or an inability to articulate their needs. We don't condemn the child as inherently evil, we seek to understand the underlying cause of their distress. In a similar vein, the Buddha encourages us to extend this same compassionate understanding to all beings, recognizing that adults, too, can be caught in patterns of ignorance and suffering that lead them to act in ways that cause harm. A person consumed by greed might exploit others, not necessarily out of a conscious desire to inflict pain, but because they are caught in the delusion that material wealth will bring them lasting happiness, blinding them to the suffering they cause. A person driven by hatred might lash out, not because they are inherently malicious, but because they are overwhelmed by their own unresolved anger, fear, or past traumas. Their actions, however destructive, are often a manifestation of their own inner turmoil, their own lack of peace. They are, in a sense, suffering themselves, and their actions are a cry for help, however distorted. This perspective is not about condoning harmful actions or absolving individuals of responsibility. It is about cultivating empathy, about seeing the bigger picture. When we understand that actions rooted in ignorance or suffering often stem from a lack of awareness, a lack of wisdom, or a lack of inner peace, our capacity for forgiveness naturally expands. Our anger, which often arises from a feeling of personal affront, can begin to transform into compassion for the suffering that drives the other person's behavior. We realize that they, too, are caught in the web of cause and effect, and that their unskillful actions will inevitably bring them their own karmic fruits of suffering. This understanding allows us to release the burden of personal offense. We recognize that the harm inflicted was not necessarily a direct attack on our inherent worth, but rather an unskillful expression of the other person's own inner state. This shift in perspective is profoundly liberating. It allows us to detach from the personal narrative of victimhood and to view the situation with a greater sense of equanimity. The anxiety that comes from feeling personally targeted, from constantly replaying the injustice, begins to dissipate. Moreover, understanding karma reminds us that our own intentions are paramount. When we choose to hold on to anger, resentment, or a desire for revenge, we are actively cultivating unwholesome intentions within our own mind stream. We are planting seeds that will inevitably bear the fruit of our own suffering. The restless mind, the agitated heart, the disturbed sleep, these are the immediate karmic consequences of clinging to unforgiveness. By contrast, when we choose forgiveness, when we cultivate loving kindness and compassion, we are planting wholesome seeds. We are creating the conditions for our own peace, our own happiness, our own liberation. This is the profound beauty of the Buddha's teaching on karma. It empowers us. We are not passive recipients of fate, but active participants in shaping our own experience through our intentions. We have the power, in every moment, to choose how we respond to life, how we respond to others, and how we cultivate our inner world. This choice is our ultimate freedom. Consider the cycle of violence that often perpetuates across generations or within communities. One act of harm leads to retaliation, which leads to further harm, creating an endless chain of suffering. This cycle is driven by unskillful intentions, anger, hatred, and the desire for revenge. The wisdom of karma teaches us that the only way to break this cycle is to introduce a new intention, the intention of non-retaliation, of compassion, of forgiveness. By choosing to respond with wisdom rather than reactive anger, we are actively interrupting the karmic chain, creating a new cause for a new, more wholesome effect. We are choosing to be a source of peace rather than a perpetuator of conflict. This understanding is deeply calming for the anxious mind. The fear of being eternally punished for past mistakes, or the worry about the karmic retribution of others, can be a subtle but persistent source of unease. But when we grasp that karma is about intention and ongoing transformation, rather than fixed judgment, a profound sense of relief emerges. We realize that every moment offers an opportunity to plant new, wholesome seeds, to purify past unskillful actions through present wholesome ones, and to cultivate a heart filled with compassion. This empowers us to release the anxiety of past regrets and to embrace the present moment with a sense of agency and peace. The practice of mindfulness helps us to observe our intentions as they arise. Before we speak, before we act, we can pause and ask, what is the intention behind this? Is it rooted in kindness or aversion, in wisdom or ignorance? This moment of mindful awareness allows us to consciously choose wholesome intentions, thereby shaping our karmic future in a positive direction. It is a continuous process of self-observation and gentle redirection, leading to a mind that is increasingly clear, compassionate, and at peace. As you settle deeper into the quiet of the night, allow the profound wisdom of intention and karma to permeate your being. Reflect on any lingering anger or resentment you might be holding towards someone who has caused you pain. Now, gently, consider the possibility that their actions may have stemmed from their own suffering, their own ignorance, their own lack of inner peace. This does not excuse their actions, but it allows you to view them with a broader, more compassionate lens. Release the burden of rigid judgment. Let go of the need to assign blame and punishment. Instead, cultivate an intention of understanding, of empathy, and of wishing for their freedom from the very suffering that led to their unskillful actions. In doing so, you are not only offering them a subtle gift of compassion, but you are primarily liberating yourself. You are choosing to plant wholesome seeds in your own mind stream, creating the conditions for your own peace and happiness. Feel the tension in your body begin to soften as the weight of judgment and resentment gently lifts. Let your breath deepen, flowing smoothly and effortlessly. Embrace the profound stillness that arises from this compassionate understanding. This is the peace that comes from aligning yourself with the universal law of cause and effect, from choosing wholesome intentions and from releasing the anxieties of rigid judgment. Allow this deep sense of calm to cradle you. Trust in the transformative power of your own intentions. Rest in the knowledge that you are constantly shaping your reality through the choices you make in your heart and mind. Let this wisdom be the gentle guardian of your dreams, guiding you into a night of profound, undisturbed, and truly restorative sleep, knowing that your heart is open, your mind is clear, and your spirit is free to cultivate peace. As you settle deeper into the quiet of the night, allow the profound wisdom of intention and karma to permeate your being. Reflect on any lingering anger or resentment you might be holding towards someone who has caused you pain. Now, gently, consider the possibility that their actions may have stemmed from their own suffering, their own ignorance, their own lack of inner peace. This does not excuse their actions, but it allows you to view them with a broader, more compassionate lens. Release the burden of rigid judgment. Let go of the need to assign blame and punishment. Instead, cultivate an intention of understanding, of empathy, and of wishing for their freedom from the very suffering that led to their unskillful actions. In doing so, you are not only offering them a subtle gift of compassion, but you are primarily liberating yourself. You are choosing to plant wholesome seeds in your own mind stream, creating the conditions for your own peace and happiness. Feel the tension in your body begin to soften as the weight of judgment and resentment gently lifts. Let your breath deepen, flowing smoothly and effortlessly. Embrace the profound stillness that arises from this compassionate understanding. This is the peace that comes from aligning yourself with the universal law of cause and effect, from choosing wholesome intentions, and from releasing the anxieties of rigid judgment. Allow this deep sense of calm to cradle you. Trust in the transformative power of your own intentions. Rest in the knowledge that you are constantly shaping your reality through the choices you make in your heart and mind. Let this wisdom be the gentle guardian of your dreams, guiding you into a night of profound, undisturbed, and truly restorative sleep. Knowing that your heart is open, your mind is clear, and your spirit is free to cultivate peace. This profound understanding of intention and karma is a continuous practice, a gentle yet firm redirection of our inner compass. It invites us to constantly examine the motivations behind our own thoughts, words, and deeds. Are we acting from a place of generosity, kindness, and wisdom? Or are we driven by attachment, aversion, or delusion? This moment-to-moment awareness is the essence of ethical living in the Buddhist tradition, and it is the direct path to cultivating inner peace. When we are able to see the actions of others through this lens of intention and karma, a remarkable shift occurs within us. The initial sting of personal offense begins to diminish. We realize that while the action may have caused us pain, it was often a reflection of the other person's internal state, rather than a direct personal attack on our intrinsic worth. This realization creates a crucial space for empathy. We begin to understand that the person who caused us harm is also subject to the laws of karma, and their unskillful actions will inevitably bring them their own fruits of suffering. This is not a cause for gloating, but for a deep, quiet compassion. Imagine a gardener who understands the nature of seeds. If they see a thorny, bitter plant growing, they don't simply curse the plant. They understand that it grew from a particular seed planted in particular conditions. To change the plant, one must change the seed and the conditions. Similarly, when we encounter harmful actions from others, the wisdom of karma encourages us to look for the seeds, the intentions, the underlying suffering, the ignorance that gave rise to those actions. This deeper understanding allows us to respond with wisdom, perhaps by setting boundaries, perhaps by offering compassion, but always by refusing to plant new seeds of hatred or retaliation in our own hearts. This perspective is especially powerful in dissolving the anxiety that comes from feeling perpetually wronged. When we believe that another person has deliberately set out to harm us, the feeling of vulnerability and injustice can be overwhelming, keeping us in a state of hypervigilance. But when we understand that their actions may have been driven by their own inner turmoil, their own lack of awareness, or their own distorted view of reality, the sense of personal attack lessens. We realize that their actions are often more about them than about us. This realization is profoundly liberating, allowing us to release the need to constantly defend ourselves and to instead find peace within. The Buddha taught that the mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. If with an impure mind one speaks or acts, then suffering follows one, even as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox. If with a pure mind one speaks or acts, then happiness follows one, as a shadow that never departs. This teaching underscores the immense power of our intentions. Our inner world, our mental landscape, is not merely a passive recipient of external events, but an active creator of our experience. By consciously cultivating wholesome intentions, even in the face of provocation, we are actively shaping a future of peace and happiness for ourselves. This active cultivation of wholesome intentions is a direct antidote to the restlessness that often accompanies a mind burdened by unforgiveness. The mind that is constantly replaying grievances, fueled by intentions of anger or revenge, is a mind that cannot find stillness. It is like a turbulent river, constantly churning and agitated. But when we consciously choose intentions of understanding, compassion, and forgiveness, the mind begins to settle. The turbulent waters become calm, clear, and reflective. This stillness is not an absence of thought, but a spaciousness in which thoughts arise and pass without disturbing our underlying peace. For the purpose of guiding you into peaceful sleep, this understanding of intention and karma is a profound comfort. As you lie down to rest, release any lingering thoughts of blame or judgment. Recognize that your own peace is paramount, and that by cultivating wholesome intentions, you are actively creating the conditions for your own deepest rest. Imagine your intentions as gentle, warm currents flowing from your heart, calming your mind, relaxing your body, and preparing your spirit for a night of profound tranquility. Let go of the need to control the past or predict the future. Trust in the wisdom of your own heart to choose wholesome intentions in the present moment. This choice is your power, your freedom, and your path to peace. Allow this deep sense of calm, born from compassionate understanding and wise intention, to cradle you into a night of profound, undisturbed, and truly restorative sleep. Rest in the knowledge that your heart is open, your mind is clear, and your spirit is free to cultivate peace, not just for yourself, but for the benefit of all beings. Part 8. The practice of patience and endurance. As the night deepens, drawing us further into its quiet embrace, we turn our attention to a virtue of profound strength and quiet power, the practice of patience and endurance, known in the ancient Pali language as kshanti. In a world that often demands instant gratification and quick fixes, the idea of patience can feel counterintuitive, even frustrating. Yet, the Buddha taught that kshanti is not a passive resignation, but an active, courageous forbearance, a powerful tool for spiritual growth, inner peace, and the cultivation of a truly forgiving heart. It is a direct antidote to the anxiety that arises from impatience and intolerance, guiding us towards a deep and abiding stillness. We often experience impatience as a subtle but persistent agitation. We become restless in traffic, frustrated by delays, annoyed by the perceived slowness of others, or vexed when life does not unfold according to our expectations. This impatience is a form of suffering, a mental friction that prevents us from being fully present and at ease. It keeps our nervous system on edge, making true relaxation elusive. Similarly, a lack of endurance can cause us to crumble in the face of adversity, to give up on challenges, or to lose our inner equilibrium when confronted with difficult circumstances or persistent injustice. The Buddha observed that life inevitably presents us with provocations, injustices, and circumstances beyond our control. Our immediate, reactive impulse is often to lash out, to complain, to demand change, or to retreat in despair. But the path of kshanti invites us to pause in that moment, to observe the rising tide of frustration or anger, and to choose a different response. It is the capacity to remain calm and steady, to endure difficulty without being overwhelmed, without losing our inner peace. This is not about suppressing our feelings, but about wisely choosing how we respond to them and to the external world. Imagine a majestic mountain. It stands firm and unmoving, enduring the fierce winds, the torrential rains, the scorching sun, and the biting cold. It does not resist these forces, nor does it complain. It simply stands, strong and unwavering, allowing the elements to pass over and around it. In the same way, the practice of patience and endurance cultivates an inner strength that allows us to face the storms of life, the provocations, the injustices, the personal slights, without being swept away by them. We become like the mountain, rooted in our inner stillness, allowing the turbulent energies to pass, knowing that our essential nature remains untouched. This inner strength is crucial for forgiveness. Forgiveness is rarely an instantaneous event. It is often a gradual process, a journey of healing that requires immense patience with oneself and with the situation. It involves enduring the discomfort of lingering hurt, the echoes of past pain, even as we actively work towards releasing them. There will be moments when old anger resurfaces, when the memory of a wrong feels fresh again. In these moments, impatience can lead us to abandon the path of forgiveness, believing it is too hard or impossible. But Kshanti teaches us to meet these resurfacing feelings with patience, to acknowledge them without judgment, and to gently redirect our hearts back towards release and compassion. Consider a time when you felt deeply provoked. Perhaps someone spoke harshly, or acted unfairly, or betrayed your trust. The initial surge of anger, the tightening in your chest, the racing thoughts, these are natural, immediate reactions. An impatient response would be to immediately retaliate, to lash out with words or actions that only escalate the conflict and perpetuate suffering. But the practice of Kshanti invites a pause. In that pause, we create a space between the stimulus and our response. We breathe. We observe the anger without identifying with it. We remember the wisdom of non-retaliation, the illusion of separation, and the impermanence of all things. This moment of patient forbearance is where true freedom lies. It is where we reclaim our power, choosing a wise and compassionate response over a reactive one. This choice is not about weakness. On the contrary, it is a profound demonstration of inner strength and self-mastery. It takes immense courage to hold one's tongue when provoked, to remain calm when insulted, to choose peace when the impulse is to fight. This is the strength that comes from cultivating Kshanti, the strength to control our own mind rather than being controlled by external circumstances or fleeting emotions. This inner control is a powerful source of stillness, dissolving the anxiety that arises from feeling constantly at the mercy of external events. Endurance, as an aspect of Kshanti, extends this patience to difficult circumstances that may not involve direct provocation, but rather the ongoing challenges of life. It is the capacity to bear illness, loss, disappointment, or persistent injustice without succumbing to despair or bitterness. It is the understanding that suffering is a part of the human condition, and that our strength lies not in avoiding it, but in our capacity to meet it with resilience and grace. This endurance is not stoicism in the sense of suppressing emotion, but a deep inner fortitude that allows us to feel our pain without letting it consume us. The Buddha himself faced numerous challenges and provocations throughout his life: slander, attempts on his life, opposition from those who misunderstood his teachings. Yet, he met each challenge with unwavering patience and boundless compassion. His life was a living testament to the power of Kshanti, demonstrating that even in the face of adversity, it is possible to maintain an unshakable inner peace. This is the ultimate goal of the practice: to cultivate a mind that is so rooted in patience and endurance that it remains undisturbed by the winds of fortune and misfortune. For the purpose of forgiveness, patience is also required with the other person. We must understand that people often act from their own conditioning, their own ignorance, their own suffering. Change, if it comes, is often slow and gradual. To expect immediate transformation or perfect understanding from others is to set ourselves up for continued frustration and disappointment. Patience allows us to see others as they are, with their imperfections and limitations, and to extend them the same understanding we would wish for ourselves. This does not mean we tolerate ongoing harm, but it means we approach the situation with a compassionate realism, rather than an impatient demand for immediate change. The inner alchemy of patience is truly transformative. It turns frustration into spaciousness. When we are impatient, our world shrinks, our focus narrows, and our minds become constricted. But when we practice patience, we create space. We allow for possibilities. We open ourselves to the unfolding of life rather than trying to force it into our preconceived notions. This spaciousness is profoundly calming. It turns anger into understanding as we pause to consider the deeper causes and conditions of a situation. It turns restlessness into stillness as the mind, no longer agitated by the desire for immediate resolution, settles into a state of quiet observation. This quiet strength, developed through kshanti, allows us to face difficulties without being swept away. It is like having a deep anchor within our being, holding us steady amidst the turbulent waves. This has a direct and profound impact on our physical and mental well-being. When we are impatient, our bodies tense, our breath becomes shallow, and our minds race. This is the physiological manifestation of anxiety. But when we cultivate patience, the nervous system calms, the muscles relax, and the breath deepens. This is the direct experience of inner peace and relaxation. Moreover, patience is vital in our relationship with ourselves. We are often our own harshest critics, impatient with our own learning process, our own emotional fluctuations, our own perceived shortcomings. This self-impatience fuels self-criticism and anxiety, creating a constant internal battle. But when we extend patience to ourselves, when we acknowledge our imperfections with kindness and understanding, we create a nurturing inner environment for growth and healing. We allow ourselves the space to learn from mistakes without condemnation, to grow at our own pace, and to simply be human. This self-patience is a profound act of self-love and a cornerstone of inner peace. The cultivation of patience and endurance is not reserved for grand, dramatic challenges. It can be practiced in the small, everyday moments that so often trigger our impatience. Waiting in a long line, being stuck in traffic, dealing with a slow internet connection, listening to someone who speaks slowly, or encountering minor frustrations throughout the day, these are all opportunities to practice kshanti. Instead of reacting with irritation, we can take a breath, observe the feeling, and gently choose patience. Each small act of patience builds the muscle of forbearance, strengthening our capacity to meet larger challenges with grace and equanimity. The cumulative effect of these small practices is a profound transformation in our overall peace and well-being. For the purpose of peaceful sleep, a mind cultivated in patience and endurance is naturally more tranquil. The restless churn of impatience, the agitation of intolerance, the anxiety of wanting things to be different, these are the very states that prevent deep, restorative sleep. But when we approach the end of the day with a heart steeped in kshanti, we are less likely to ruminate on past wrongs or worry about future uncertainties. We are more able to accept the present moment as it is, to let go of what we cannot control, and to surrender to the natural rhythm of rest. The sense of inner strength and resilience that comes from patience and endurance allows for a feeling of safety and calm. We know that whatever challenges tomorrow may bring, we have the inner resources to meet them with equanimity. This quiet confidence allows the mind to truly let go, to release its grip on control, and to sink into the profound peace of undisturbed sleep. As you lie in the quiet of the night, allow the spirit of patience and endurance to envelop you. Feel any lingering impatience or frustration gently dissolving. Let go of the need for things to be different than they are. Embrace the present moment with an open heart and a steady mind. Feel your body soften, your breath deepen, and your mind settle into a profound stillness. This stillness, born of courageous patience, is your sanctuary. Let it cradle you into a night of deep, restorative, and truly peaceful sleep, knowing that you possess the inner strength to meet all of life with grace and equanimity. As you lie in the quiet of the night, allow the spirit of patience and endurance to envelop you. Feel any lingering impatience or frustration gently dissolving. Let go of the need for things to be different than they are. Embrace the present moment with an open heart and a steady mind. Feel your body soften, your breath deepen, and your mind settle into a profound stillness. This stillness, born of courageous patience, is your sanctuary. Let it cradle you into a night of deep, restorative, and truly peaceful sleep, knowing that you possess the inner strength to meet all of life with grace and equanimity. This profound practice of kshanti, patience, and endurance is a cornerstone of the Buddhist path, not just for personal peace, but for the cultivation of a truly compassionate and forgiving heart. It teaches us that true freedom lies not in the absence of difficulty, but in our capacity to meet difficulty with an unwavering inner calm. When we are impatient, our minds are agitated, our hearts are closed, and our capacity for empathy is diminished. But when we cultivate patience, a spaciousness opens within us, allowing for understanding, for compassion, and for the possibility of genuine forgiveness to arise. Consider the metaphor of a tree standing firm in a storm. The tree does not fight the wind or the rain. It bends, it sways, it endures. Its roots hold it steady, and its branches, though buffeted, eventually return to their natural position. Similarly, when we practice kshanti, we develop deep roots of inner strength that allow us to bend without breaking, to sway without being uprooted by the storms of life. This resilience is not about being emotionless, but about having the capacity to feel our emotions fully, anger, sadness, frustration, without allowing them to overwhelm us or dictate our actions. We learn to observe them, to understand their impermanent nature, and to allow them to pass, much like the storm clouds eventually clear. This inner resilience is particularly vital when we are grappling with the process of forgiveness. Forgiveness is rarely a linear path. There may be moments of progress, followed by moments when old wounds resurface, bringing with them a fresh wave of pain or anger. Without patience and endurance, it is easy to become discouraged, to feel that we have failed, or that forgiveness is simply impossible. But kshanti teaches us to meet these setbacks with kindness and understanding, both for ourselves and for the process. We acknowledge the difficulty, we breathe through the discomfort, and we gently recommit to the path of healing. This patient persistence is what ultimately leads to true liberation. The anxiety that stems from impatience is often rooted in a desire for control. We want things to happen on our timeline, according to our expectations. When reality deviates from this, we feel frustrated, anxious, and out of control. But the practice of kshanti invites us to surrender this need for control, to trust in the natural unfolding of life, and to accept that some things simply take time. This surrender is not a sign of weakness, but a profound act of wisdom. It is the recognition that true peace comes not from controlling external circumstances, but from cultivating an inner state of calm acceptance. In the quiet of a Zen garden, every element is placed with deliberate patience, each stone, each raked pattern, reflecting a deep understanding of natural processes and the beauty of enduring stillness. The gardener does not rush the growth of the moss or force the arrangement of the rocks. They work with a patient, enduring spirit, allowing beauty to unfold in its own time. Our inner landscape can be cultivated with the same patience. We plant the seeds of forgiveness, we water them with compassion, and we patiently wait for them to sprout, knowing that growth cannot be forced. This patient approach also extends to our interactions with others. When someone has caused us harm, it can be tempting to demand immediate understanding, immediate remorse, or immediate change from them. But people, like gardens, grow at their own pace. They may be caught in their own patterns of ignorance or suffering, and their capacity for insight or transformation may be limited. Kshanti allows us to meet them where they are, with a compassionate understanding of their limitations, without abandoning our own boundaries or our commitment to peace. This patient understanding is a profound act of love, for ourselves and for the world. The deep relaxation that we seek for peaceful sleep is a direct consequence of cultivating patience. When the mind is patient, it is not constantly striving, rushing, or demanding. It is at ease, allowing things to be as they are. This ease permeates the body, releasing tension from the muscles, calming the nervous system, and allowing the breath to flow freely and deeply. The frantic energy of impatience dissipates, replaced by a quiet, steady presence. This is the state of mind and body that is perfectly attuned to deep, restorative sleep. As you lie in the stillness of the night, allow yourself to feel the profound peace that arises from embracing patience and endurance. Release any lingering sense of urgency, any need to rush or control. Let go of the frustration that comes from unmet expectations. Instead, simply be present with your breath, with the sensations in your body, with the quiet unfolding of this moment. Imagine yourself as the mountain, strong and unwavering, allowing the winds of life to pass over you without disturbing your core stillness. Or imagine yourself as the patient gardener, tending to the seeds of peace and forgiveness within your heart, trusting in their eventual blossoming. This profound sense of inner strength and calm is your birthright. It is always available to you simply by choosing patience. Let this quiet power cradle you. Trust in the wisdom of allowing. Rest in the knowledge that you have the inner resources to meet all of life's challenges with grace and equanimity. Allow this deep, abiding peace to guide you into a night of profound, undisturbed, and truly restorative sleep. Knowing that your heart is patient, your mind is still, and your spirit is free to rest in boundless serenity. Part 9. Releasing attachment to expectations. As the night continues its gentle descent, inviting us deeper into stillness, we turn our attention to another subtle yet powerful source of suffering that often binds us: our attachment to expectations. In our daily lives, we constantly form expectations of how others should behave, how life should unfold, how situations should resolve. While some expectations are necessary for navigating the world, an attachment to these expectations, a rigid insistence that reality conform to our mental blueprints, inevitably leads to disappointment, frustration, and, profoundly, to resentment and the inability to forgive. This attachment is a pervasive source of anxiety, keeping our minds agitated and preventing the deep relaxation essential for peaceful sleep. Imagine, for a moment, holding a tightly clenched fist. In that fist, you hold a precise image of how a particular situation must be, how a person must act, or how your life should look. You cling to this image with all your might, convinced that your happiness depends on its fulfillment. But reality, being fluid and ever-changing, rarely conforms perfectly to our rigid mental constructs. When life unfolds differently than your clenched fist demands, you feel a sharp pang of disappointment, a surge of frustration, or a deep sense of injustice. The tighter you cling to your expectation, the greater the pain when reality inevitably deviates. The Buddha, with his profound insight into the nature of suffering, taught that much of our anguish arises from this very clinging. We cling not only to pleasant experiences, but also to our ideas of how things should be. This clinging to expectations is a subtle form of resistance to the present moment, a refusal to accept reality as it is. When we are constantly comparing what is to what we think should be, we are perpetually living in a state of dissatisfaction, unable to find peace or contentment. This is particularly true in the context of forgiveness. When someone wrongs us, we often develop a strong expectation of how they should respond. We expect them to apologize sincerely, to show remorse, to understand the depth of our pain, or to make amends in a specific way. We might expect the situation to be fixed, to return to a state of equilibrium, or for justice to be served according to our own definition. When these expectations are not met, and they often are not, for others are not beholden to our internal scripts, our anger and resentment deepen. We feel doubly wronged, first by their action, and then by their failure to meet our expectations of their response. This attachment to expectations creates a significant barrier to genuine forgiveness. We hold on to our anger as a form of protest, a silent demand that reality conform to our ideal. But this protest only harms us, keeping us tethered to the past and preventing our own healing. The other person may be entirely unaware of our internal expectations or simply incapable of meeting them. Their inability or unwillingness to fulfill our script only fuels our frustration, deepening our sense of injustice and making it almost impossible to let go. Consider the metaphor of a boat tied to a dock. The boat wishes to sail freely on the open water, but it remains tethered, unable to move. Our hearts, too, wish for freedom, for peace, for the open expanse of compassion. But our attachment to expectations acts like a rope, tying us to the dock of how things should be, preventing us from sailing into the freedom of acceptance and forgiveness. To release this attachment is to untie the rope, allowing our heart to move freely, unburdened by the weight of unmet demands. The wisdom of the Buddha encourages us to cultivate a mind of non-attachment, not only to outcomes, but also to our preconceived notions of how things must be. This does not mean we cease to have preferences or goals. It means we hold them lightly, with open hands, understanding that reality is vast and complex, and often unfolds in ways we cannot predict or control. When we release our rigid attachment to expectations, we create space for acceptance, for flexibility, and for a deeper understanding of the present moment as it truly is. This acceptance is a powerful antidote to anxiety. Much of our worry stems from our desire to control the future, to ensure that things turn out exactly as we want them to. But life is inherently unpredictable. When we cling to expectations, we are constantly bracing ourselves against the inevitable deviations, creating a state of chronic tension in our minds and bodies. By letting go of these rigid expectations, we relax into the flow of life. We become more adaptable, more resilient, and more at peace with the unfolding present. In the context of forgiveness, releasing attachment to expectations means letting go of the demand that the other person must change, must apologize, must understand, or must suffer. It means recognizing that their journey is their own, and that our peace does not depend on their actions or their transformation. We forgive, not because they have met our expectations, but because we choose to liberate ourselves from the suffering caused by clinging to those unmet expectations. We release the burden, not for them, but for the profound freedom of our own spirit. This is a radical act of self-compassion. It is a recognition that our inner peace is too precious to be held hostage by the actions or inactions of others. It is a conscious decision to reclaim our agency, to choose our own inner state, regardless of how external circumstances unfold. When we release the demand that others conform to our expectations, we also release the anger and resentment that inevitably arise when they do not. This creates a vast, open space in the heart, a space where genuine forgiveness can blossom. Consider a gardener who plants a seed. They nurture it, water it, and provide it with sunlight. They have an expectation that it will grow into a particular flower or fruit. But if the seed fails to sprout, or if it grows into something unexpected, a gardener practicing non-attachment would not curse the seed or rage against the earth. They would observe, learn, and perhaps plant a different seed or adjust their approach. They would accept reality as it is, rather than clinging to a rigid outcome. This patient acceptance allows for continued growth and learning, rather than frustration and despair. Similarly, in our relationships, we plant seeds of intention and action. We hope for positive outcomes. But when the flower of interaction does not bloom as we expected, or if a thorn emerges, our attachment to expectation can cause immense suffering. By releasing this attachment, we can still learn from the experience, still cultivate wholesome intentions, but we do so without the added burden of disappointment and resentment. We accept the reality of the situation, allowing ourselves to move forward with grace and wisdom. The practice of mindfulness is deeply intertwined with releasing attachment to expectations. Mindfulness teaches us to be present with what is, rather than being lost in what should be. We observe our thoughts, our emotions, our sensations without judgment, without trying to change them or force them into a preconceived mold. This practice trains the mind to let go of its rigid demands and to embrace the fluid, ever-changing nature of reality. With each breath, we practice letting go, releasing the subtle grip of expectation and settling into the simple truth of the present moment. This letting go is profoundly relaxing. When the mind is no longer constantly striving to force reality into its own mold, when it is no longer comparing what is to what should be, it can finally rest. The tension in the body, which often mirrors the tension in the mind, begins to dissipate. The breath deepens, and a sense of quiet spaciousness emerges. This is the stillness that allows for deep, restorative sleep. The anxieties that arise from unmet expectations, from the constant mental struggle against reality, begin to dissolve, leaving behind a profound sense of peace. As you prepare for sleep, allow yourself to reflect on any expectations you might be clinging to, about yourself, about others, about your life. Gently acknowledge them. Notice the tension they might be creating in your body or mind. And then, with a soft heart, consciously choose to release your attachment to them. Imagine your clenched fist gently opening, releasing the rigid blueprint, allowing your hand to relax and be open to whatever arises. Let go of the need for things to be different than they are. Surrender to the flow of life, to the inherent unpredictability of existence. Trust that you have the inner resources to meet whatever arises, without the added burden of rigid expectations. This profound act of release is a gift you give yourself, the gift of acceptance, of flexibility, and of boundless peace. Allow this deep sense of calm, born from releasing attachment to expectations, to cradle you. Feel the tension in your body soften, your breath deepen, and your mind settle into a profound stillness. Let this be the gentle lullaby that guides you into a night of truly peaceful, restorative, and deeply tranquil sleep, knowing that your heart is open, your mind is free, and your spirit is at peace with the beautiful, ever-changing dance of life. As you prepare for sleep, allow yourself to reflect on any expectations you might be clinging to, about yourself, about others, about your life. Gently acknowledge them. Notice the tension they might be creating in your body or mind. And then, with a soft heart, consciously choose to release your attachment to them. Imagine your clenched fist gently opening, releasing the rigid blueprint, allowing your hand to relax and be open to whatever arises. Let go of the need for things to be different than they are. Surrender to the flow of life, to the inherent unpredictability of existence. Trust that you have the inner resources to meet whatever arises, without the added burden of rigid expectations. This profound act of release is a gift you give yourself, the gift of acceptance, of flexibility, and of boundless peace. Allow this deep sense of calm, born from releasing attachment to expectations, to cradle you. Feel the tension in your body soften, your breath deepen, and your mind settle into a profound stillness. Let this be the gentle lullaby that guides you into a night of truly peaceful, restorative, and deeply tranquil sleep. Knowing that your heart is open, your mind is free, and your spirit is at peace with the beautiful, ever-changing dance of life. This profound wisdom of releasing attachment to expectations is not about becoming passive or indifferent. It is about cultivating a dynamic engagement with life that is free from the suffering of clinging. We can still have goals, we can still strive for positive outcomes, and we can still work towards a better future. The difference lies in how we hold these aspirations. Instead of clinging to them with a rigid, demanding grip, we hold them lightly, with an open hand and an open heart, ready to adapt and respond to whatever reality presents. Consider the anxiety that often arises when we are waiting for an outcome. Whether it's a job interview, a medical diagnosis, or a difficult conversation, our minds can become consumed by expectations of how it should turn out. We replay scenarios, imagine ideal responses, and become deeply invested in a particular result. When the actual outcome deviates, even slightly, from our meticulously crafted mental script, we experience a surge of disappointment, frustration, or even anger. This mental churning, fueled by our attachment to expectations, is a direct cause of sleepless nights and restless days. The Buddha's teaching invites us to shift our focus from the outcome to the process. We do our best, we act with wholesome intentions, and then we release our attachment to the specific result. We trust that the universe, in its boundless complexity, will unfold as it will, and that we have the inner resources to meet whatever arises with equanimity. This trust is a powerful antidote to anxiety. It allows us to engage fully in life, to act with purpose and compassion, without being enslaved by the need for specific outcomes. In the context of forgiveness, this means releasing the expectation that the person who harmed us must change, must understand, or must offer the specific apology we desire. It means letting go of the demand that the past must be undone, or that justice must conform to our personal definition. These are often impossible demands, as we cannot control the minds or actions of others, nor can we rewind time. When we cling to these unmet expectations, we perpetuate our own suffering, keeping the wound fresh and preventing our own healing. By releasing these attachments, we open ourselves to a different kind of freedom. We recognize that our peace does not depend on the other person's transformation or on the world conforming to our will. Our peace arises from within, from our own capacity to accept reality as it is, and to choose compassion and forgiveness for our own liberation. This is not a passive acceptance of injustice, but an active, courageous choice to reclaim our inner sovereignty. Imagine a skilled sailor navigating a vast ocean. They have a destination in mind, but they know that the winds, the currents, and the weather are beyond their control. They do not rigidly demand that the ocean conform to their expectations. Instead, they read the signs, adjust their sails, and adapt their course with flexibility and wisdom. They are present with the ever-changing conditions rather than fighting against them. Our lives are much like this ocean voyage. We can have a destination, a desire for peace, for forgiveness. But we must also learn to navigate the unpredictable currents of life with the same flexibility and non-attachment to expectations. This practice cultivates a profound sense of inner freedom. When we are no longer bound by the chains of expectation, we are free to respond to life with creativity, with spontaneity, and with genuine joy. We are no longer constantly measuring reality against an ideal, finding it wanting. Instead, we embrace the richness and complexity of each moment, finding beauty and wisdom even in unexpected turns. This freedom from mental constraint is deeply liberating, allowing the mind to be spacious, clear, and at peace. The anxiety that often prevents peaceful sleep is frequently the result of a mind that is still clinging to the day's unmet expectations, or worrying about tomorrow's potential disappointments. We replay conversations, wishing we had said something different. We fret about future events, trying to mentally control outcomes that are beyond our grasp. This restless mental activity keeps the nervous system activated, preventing the deep relaxation needed for sleep. By consciously releasing attachment to expectations, we give our minds permission to rest. We tell ourselves, "I have done my best. I release the need for things to be different. I accept what is, and I trust in the unfolding of life." This profound surrender is a powerful lullaby for the anxious mind. It allows the body to soften, the breath to deepen, and the entire being to sink into a state of profound calm. As you lie in the quiet of the night, allow yourself to fully embrace this liberating wisdom. Feel the subtle tension in your forehead, your jaw, your shoulders begin to melt away as you release the grip of expectations. Let your breath become a gentle, rhythmic tide, carrying you deeper and deeper into a state of profound relaxation. Recognize that your true peace does not depend on external circumstances conforming to your desires. It arises from your own inner capacity to accept, to adapt, and to let go. This is the profound freedom that the Buddha's teachings offer. A freedom from the suffering of clinging, a freedom to find peace in any moment, regardless of its external conditions. Allow this deep sense of calm, born from releasing attachment to expectations, to envelop you completely. Trust in your own inner wisdom to navigate the currents of life with an open heart and a flexible mind. Rest in the knowledge that you are worthy of peace, worthy of happiness, and worthy of a night of deep, undisturbed, and truly restorative sleep. Let this wisdom be the gentle guardian of your dreams, ensuring that your heart is open, your mind is free, and your spirit is at peace with the beautiful, ever-changing dance of life. You are now unburdened, ready to embrace the profound peace that awaits you. Part 10. The Ultimate Freedom of Forgiveness. As the night reaches its deepest stillness, and the world outside has truly settled into its peaceful slumber, we arrive at the culmination of our journey, the ultimate freedom of forgiveness. We have traversed many paths, exploring the profound wisdom of the Buddha, each teaching a gentle step towards understanding, release, and inner peace. Now, we gather these threads together, weaving them into a tapestry that reveals the true, liberating essence of forgiveness. Throughout our exploration, we have seen that holding on to anger, resentment, and past hurts creates a deep personal suffering, a heavy burden that we ourselves choose to carry. We learned that this refusal to forgive inflicts pain primarily upon the forgiver, keeping us bound in a self-made prison of agitation and disquiet. We then journeyed into the illusion of separation, recognizing our profound interconnectedness with all beings, understanding that harming another ultimately harms ourselves, and that forgiveness dissolves the very boundaries that fuel conflict. We cultivated metta, boundless loving kindness, extending compassion first to ourselves, then to loved ones, neutral persons, and finally, to those who have caused us harm, softening the heart and dissolving barriers of aversion. We embraced the impermanence of all things, understanding that pain, anger, and grievances are transient, like passing clouds, and that our clinging to them only prolongs our suffering. We discovered the profound strength in the wisdom of non-retaliation, choosing to break the cycle of suffering by responding to harm with peace rather than further aggression. Our journey also led us to the crucial practice of forgiving oneself, releasing the heavy stones of self-blame and regret, and reconnecting with our inherent Buddha nature. We delved into the intricate dance of intention and karma, understanding that actions rooted in ignorance or suffering often stem from a lack of awareness, cultivating empathy and a deeper capacity for forgiveness towards others' misguided deeds. We embraced the virtues of patience and endurance, kshanti, recognizing them not as weakness, but as powerful tools for resilience and inner strength in the face of provocation. And finally, we learned the liberating art of releasing attachment to expectations, letting go of rigid demands for how life or others should be, thereby paving the way for acceptance and genuine forgiveness. Now, we stand at the threshold of this ultimate freedom. Forgiveness, in the light of these teachings, is not about condoning harm, not about forgetting the pain, and certainly not about absolving the wrongdoer of their actions. It is, first and foremost, a profound, radical act of self-liberation. It is the conscious, courageous choice to untie the knots that bind us to the past, to lay down the heavy burdens that we have carried, and to reclaim our own inherent peace and freedom. Imagine a vast, open sky that has been obscured by a dense, dark storm. The storm represents the anger, the resentment, the unaddressed pain. Forgiveness is not the act of making the storm disappear, but the act of recognizing that you are the sky. You are not the storm. The storm clouds may pass through, they may even linger for a time, but they can never diminish the boundless, clear, radiant nature of the sky itself. When you forgive, you are simply allowing the clouds to drift away, revealing the pristine, unchanging expanse of your own consciousness that was always there, untouched, luminous, and free. This liberation is not merely an intellectual concept, it is a deeply felt experience. It is the lightness that permeates your being when the heavy weight of resentment finally lifts. It is the spaciousness that opens in your heart when the constricting grip of anger loosens. It is the clarity that emerges in your mind when the fog of bitterness dissipates. This unburdened state is the ultimate antidote to anxiety. The mind, no longer consumed by past grievances or future worries, finds a profound stillness, a quietude that allows for genuine rest and rejuvenation. When we are no longer tethered to the past by the chains of unforgiveness, we become truly free to embrace the present moment. The present, in Buddhist wisdom, is the only moment we ever truly have. It is the moment of life, of breath, of experience. But if our minds are constantly being dragged backward by the echoes of old hurts, or pulled forward by the anxieties of what might be, we miss the richness and potential of this precious present. Forgiveness brings us home to the now. It allows us to taste the simple joys, to feel the gentle breeze, to hear the quiet sounds of the night without the heavy veil of past pain obscuring our experience. It is a profound act of mindfulness, a full immersion in the reality of this very moment. This freedom from the past also leads to a deeper awakening. When the mind is no longer clouded by resentment and anger, when the heart is no longer constricted by bitterness, our perception becomes clearer. We begin to see reality as it truly is, uncolored by our projections and judgments. We see the interconnectedness of all things with greater clarity. We recognize the inherent suffering in others that often drives their unskillful actions. We connect more deeply with our own inherent Buddha nature, our fundamental capacity for wisdom, compassion, and boundless peace. This awakening is not a dramatic, sudden event, but a gradual unfolding, a gentle blossoming of our true potential. The peace that arises from this ultimate freedom of forgiveness is not a fleeting happiness dependent on external circumstances. It is a lasting tranquility, an unshakable inner calm that remains even amidst the inevitable challenges of life. It is the peace of a mind that has released its burdens, a heart that has opened to compassion, and a spirit that has found its way home to its true, unconditioned nature. This tranquility permeates every cell of your being, calming the nervous system, deepening the breath, and inviting a profound sense of well-being. As you lie in the quiet of this sacred space, allow this understanding of ultimate freedom to wash over you completely. Feel the gentle current of these words carrying you deeper into relaxation. Release any final vestiges of tension, any lingering echoes of past hurts, any subtle anxieties about what was or what might be. Imagine your heart as an open lotus flower, its petals unfurling, releasing all that no longer serves your peace. You have journeyed far tonight, exploring the profound wisdom that liberates the heart and mind. Now, it is time to fully embrace the fruits of this journey. Allow yourself the profound gift of forgiveness, for others, for yourself, for the imperfections of life. This act of release is the most compassionate gift you can offer your own spirit. Feel the lightness that comes with being unburdened. Feel the spaciousness that opens in your heart. Feel the profound stillness that settles in your mind. This is your natural state, your inherent peace. Let it cradle you now, gently, completely. Surrender to this deep tranquility, knowing that you are free, you are worthy, and you are at peace. Allow your breath to deepen, flowing effortlessly, a soft, rhythmic tide guiding you further into profound relaxation. Let your body soften, melting into the surface beneath you, releasing every last trace of tension. Your mind is clear, your heart is open, and your spirit is now free from the burdens of the past. You are here, now, in this moment of ultimate peace. Let this profound sense of peace and liberation be the gentle lullaby that guides you into a night of deep, undisturbed, and truly restorative sleep. Rest in the knowledge that you have chosen the path of freedom, that your heart is open to boundless compassion, and that your spirit is at peace with the beautiful, ever-changing dance of life. May you rest deeply, may you awaken refreshed, and may you carry this ultimate freedom of forgiveness into every moment of your waking life.